Dear heads of state, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I am glad to welcome you all to the BRICS Plus outreach meeting. This expanded format has proven itself well and provides an opportunity for a direct and open dialogue between the members of the association with our friends and partners. Let me remind you that last year, the heads of many African states and heads of key regional organizations were invited to the Johannesburg meeting. And this time, the Russian presidency invited Russia's closest neighbors, friendly countries with which we share a common history of life, in a single state. There are also heads of state who are interested in establishing a closer partnership with BRICS, and are even considering the possibility of membership of the association, from the countries that currently head the leading multilateral structures. In other words, the states of Europe, Asia, Africa, and Latin America are represented at our common table. According to the proposed agenda, we will consider the issues of the most concern to the world community. These include sustainable development, poverty eradication, adaptation to climate change, the exchange of technology and knowledge, and the fight against terrorism and cross-border crime. Naturally, we will pay special attention to the peaceful settlement of conflicts, including, of course, we will talk. And we will seriously talk about the aggravated situation in the Middle East. It is extremely important for BRICS members to discuss all these topics with like-minded people from the countries of the Global South and East. All our states share similar aspirations, values, and visions of a new democratic world order, reflecting all cultural and civilizational diversity, and are convinced that such a world order should be based on universal principles of respect for the legitimate interests and sovereign choice of countries and peoples, respect for international law, and a spirit for mutually beneficial, honest cooperation. The transition to a fairer world order is not easy. Its formation is hindered by forces accustomed to think and act in the logic of dominating everything and everything. Behind the screen of the rules-based order imposed on the world, there are attempts to restrain the growing competitors, independent, uncontrolled development of the countries of Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Illegal unilateral sanctions, outright protectionism, manipulation of currency and stock markets, interference in internal affairs under the slogan of concern for democracy and human rights, and the fight against climate change are being used. And this is also used. Such, frankly speaking, unhealthy methods and approaches lead both to the emergence of new conflicts and to the aggravation of old contradictions. This undermines regional and global strategic stability, violates the principles of equal and indivisible security, encourages interstate, internecine strife. One example of this is Ukraine, which is being used to create critical threats to Russia's security, while ignoring our vital interests and just concerns about the infringement of the rights of Russian-speaking people. And now they do not hide the goal of inflicting a strategic defeat on our country at all. I will say bluntly that these are illusory calculations that can only be made by those who do not know the history of Russia, who do not take into account the unity, strength of spirit, and cohesion of its people forged for centuries. But, as agreed, the situation in the Middle East will be among the main topics of our discussion. It also causes concern. And here exactly what I was talking about is taking place. This is the aggravation of an old conflict that has not been extinguished for decades. The next round of the Palestinian-Israeli confrontation has become, perhaps, one of the bloodiest in a long series of clashes. As a result of the fighting in the Gaza Strip, more than 40,000 people have already been killed, most of them civilians. But at the same time, I want to emphasize this, we have always opposed any terrorist manifestations. The fighting that began a year ago in Gaza has now spread to Lebanon. Other countries' regions were also affected. The degree of confrontation between Israel and Iran has sharply increased. All this resembles a chain reaction and puts the entire Middle East on the verge of a full-scale war. The humanitarian situation is also rapidly deteriorating. The number of refugees and internally displaced persons has already exceeded 1.5 million people. Colossal damage has been caused to infrastructure and residential buildings, schools, hospitals, and social facilities. And the destruction continues. In Russia, of course, there are a lot of very important, acute issues that we have to solve for ourselves, and we are doing this. And we will do it. But at the same time, we have always sought to make a significant contribution to the stabilization of the Middle East. Therefore, from the very beginning of the escalation, together with the BRICS members and other partners, we have actively engaged in settlement efforts. As you remember, there was even an emergency video summit of our association in November of the 23rd year. The urgent task, of course, is to launch a comprehensive political process to solve the Middle East problem in its entirety. It is necessary to stop the violence, provide vital assistance to the victims, alleviate their suffering. The settlement itself must be achieved on universally recognized international legal basis, which directly provides for the creation of an independent Palestinian state peacefully coexisting with Israel. Correcting the historical injustice against the Palestinian people can guarantee peace in the Middle East. Until this issue is resolved, the vicious circle of violence will not be broken. People will continue to live in an atmosphere of permanent crisis with inevitable relapses of large-scale violence. Well, I would like to repeat it. The key requirement for the restoration of peace and stability in the Palestinian territories is the implementation of the two-state formula, approved by the resolutions of the UN Security Council and the UN General Assembly. Turning to the assessment of the general situation in the world, I want to emphasize that the states represented here have really huge capabilities and resources, have high authority on the world stage, and actively use all this in order to really contribute to ensuring global security. Promotion of sustainable development processes in the world. Many of our countries have put forward their very useful initiatives in this context. For its part, Russia has come up with the idea of forming a system of equal and indivisible security in Eurasia on an inclusive and non-discriminatory basis. The point is to reliably guarantee genuine stability by joint efforts and create conditions for the peaceful development of all states and peoples on the continent. And, of course, it is symbolic that our meeting today is taking place on the day of the United Nations. It was on the 24th of October, 1945, that the UN Charter came into force, the principles of which have been the foundation of international relations and international law for almost 8 decades. The World Organization is called upon to continue to play a central role in maintaining peace and security, in promoting sustainable and progressive growth. At the same time, we consider it important for the further effective functioning of the UN to adapt its structure to the realities of the 21st century, to expand representation in the Security Council and other key bodies of the countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, including those whose leaders are in this hall. The reform of the UN development institutions and global financial structures is long overdue. The weight of the developing countries of the world economy has changed dramatically in recent decades, but this, in particular, has not been adequately reflected in the management systems of the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and other multilateral development banks. The founding fathers of the United Nations saw its purpose as being a center for coordinating the actions of the nation, because together and collectively it is possible to really respond to global challenges and threats, solve tasks such as combating terrorism, drug trafficking, corruption, organized crime, including the criminal use of information technology. And, of course, to ensure sustainable economic growth for the benefit of all development and prosperity, universal development and prosperity. It is obvious that the next wave of global economic recovery is emerging in the countries of the world majority. Therefore, it's time to discuss the idea of creating our own platform to unlock the potential of our growing economies. Its goal is to increase investment flows to the BRICS countries of the Global South and East, and to focus on investing in large infrastructure and technology projects. It is important to build alternative, reliable, and free from any dictate multilateral financial mechanisms. Production logistics chains establish the exchange of technologies and advanced knowledge. Develop and increase the capacity of new international transport corridors. Russia, together with its partners, is working on such globally significant routes as the North-South and the Northern Sea route. And we invite all interested countries to cooperate. As we well know, climate occupies a special place in the topic of sustainable development. It is logical that the international climate agenda should be aimed at developing practical solutions to the problem of global warming. And here it is important to ensure access of the countries of the Global South and East to finance and technology, to help them adapt to climate change. I would like to emphasize that Russia strives to participate in the global climate process in the most active way. Our country is one of the leaders in contributing to the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and its energy balance is one of the greenest in the world. The share of ecologically pure gas nuclear hydrogenation is 85% in our country. More than 20% of the world's forests are located on Russian territory, which, by absorbing greenhouse gases, help slow down global warming. Russia also makes a serious contribution to ensuring world food and energy security. Over the past year alone, we have exported over 100 million tons of agricultural products, have become leaders in grain supplies, and we hold leading positions in the energy market. Within the framework of BRICS, we initiated the creation of a grain exchange. We hope that such a mechanism will contribute to the establishment of a transparent and immune to external risks regime of trade in agricultural products, both between the members of the association and with our other partners. Summing up, I would like to note once again that Russia, like all BRICS countries, is open to working together with the countries of the Global South and East to promote inclusive and sustainable development in order to build a better world. A world in which the opinions and interests of each people will be taken into account, their right to sovereign development, their identity will be respected, and the absolute value of all cultures, traditions, and religions without exception will be recognized. I hope that today's discussion will be constructive and thorough, and will contribute to resolving topical issues on the regional and global agenda. Thank you for your attention, and I am pleased to give the floor to the President of the People's Republic of China, Mr. Xi Jinping. Please. Dear President Putin, colleagues, I would like to thank President Putin and the Russian government for organizing today's dialogue in the BRICS Plus format. I am glad to welcome all colleagues and meet old and new friends here in Kazan.
И встретиться с давними и новыми друзьями здесь, в Казани.
The collective rise of the countries of the global south is a bright sign of a dynamically changing world.
Примета динамично меняющегося мира.
Their joint movement towards modernization marks significant events in world history and an unprecedented great undertaking in the civilization of mankind.
И небывалое великое начинание в цивилизации человечества.
However, due to the severe challenges facing the body of peace and development, the path of the global south to rebirth will not be easy.
Путь глобального юга к возрождению легким не будет.
We, as the leading countries of the global south, are obliged to unite our minds and efforts, boldly assume responsibility for the formation of a community of a single destiny of humanity.
Взять на себя ответственность за формирование сообщества единой судьбы человечества.
It is important to defend peace in the name of common security. We should be a constructive factor in protecting peace, building up global governance in the field of security, for the comprehensive settlement of hotspots. The global security initiative I have put forward has met with a positive response and has received important returns in many areas, including ensuring regional stability.
Во многих сферах, включая обеспечение региональной стабильности.
China, together with Brazil, published a six-point consensus on the settlement of the Ukrainian crisis. Together with the relevant countries, we initiated the creation of a group of Friends of the World at the UNSITE. It is important to finish the escalation of the situation as soon as possible, and to live the path to a political settlement of the crisis. In July of this year, an inter-Palestinian reconciliation took place in Beijing, which resulted in an important step towards achieving peace in the Middle East.
По итогам которого был сделан важный шаг к достижению мира на Ближнем Востоке.
We need to continue to promote a full ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and the restoration of a two-state formula in order to end the war in Lebanon and prevent the death and suffering of civilians in Palestine and Lebanon.
Недопущение гибели и страдания мирных людей в Палестине и Ливане.
It is important to restore development in the name of universal dating. The global south has emerged for development and is being strengthened in the process of development. We should act as a pivotal force for universal development, take an active part, and play a guiding role in reforming the system of global economic governance, and contribute to giving the development theme a central place on the international trade and economic agenda. In the 3 years since the Global Development Initiative was launched, approximately $20 billion have already been used as a development fund for the implementation of more than 1,100 projects. Recently in Shanghai, on the opening of the Center of Excellence of the Global Alliance for Artificial Intelligence, and about industry and manufacturing, we will also create an online platform for global cooperation on smart customs and a demonstration center for customs of the CIS countries. We welcome the active participation of all countries. It is important to intensify intercivilizational exchanges of software in the name of diversity and harmony. The diversity of civilization is a bright feature of our planet. It is important to be active supporters of intercivilizational enrichment, strengthen contacts and dialogue, support each other on the path of modernization in accordance with their own realities. The proposed, but also global communications initiative is aimed at building a blooming garden of world civilizations. China is ready as a coordinator to create an alliance of cooperation of think tanks of the Global South in order to promote humanitarian dialogue and exchange of experience in the field of public administration. Dear colleagues, following the results of the third captivity of the rich convocation of the PAL, a comprehensive plan was developed for further comprehensive deepening of the reform and promotion of Chinese modernization, which will certainly bring greater opportunities to the whole world. Last month, on the sidelines of the summit of the China-Africa Cooperation Forum, 10 partnership actions between China and Africa were announced to jointly promote modernization. And this will serve as a new impetus for achieving the modernization of the Global South. No matter how the international situation changes, the Chinese side will always take care of the countries of the Global South, stand by them, and support the accession of more and more countries of the Global South of the CIS as member states, partner countries, or in the BRICS Plus format. To form a powerful force of the Global South in the name of the community, of the common destiny of mankind. Thank you. To Mr. President Putin for his great patronizing work for the current summit. Thank you for the successful holding of the BRICS summit. I express my congratulations. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. China is doing a lot for the development of BRICS and in general for the situation in the international arena to develop in the most favorable way, and it is investing the appropriate resources, administrative and financial. So thank you very much. I would like to give the floor to our Egyptian friends. Please, President Al-Sisi, please. Thank you, Mr. President, in the name of Allah, the Merciful, the Merciful. Your Excellency President of the Russian Federation Vladimir Putin, Your Majesty, heads of state and government. First of all, I would like to thank His Excellency President Putin of Russia for his invitation to take part in the plenary session of our association Outreach BRICS Plus. I would also like to welcome the heads of state and government who are participating in this meeting, confirming the increasing importance of the BRICS Association and the special importance of interaction and effective interaction with other countries outside the framework of this association. Ladies and gentlemen, today's meeting is taking place in a very difficult international situation. The crises and other challenges that we all face pose a threat to the multipolar system. And we, together with other states, are now advocating to unite the efforts of all countries, developing countries, and strengthen cooperation with within the framework of the South.
всех стран, развивающихся стран, и укрепить взаимодействие в рамках юг-юг.
In this regard, I would like to say that it is impossible to talk about crises and modern international challenges without touching on the Middle East crisis. We see an Israeli war that has been going on for more than 1 year against the Arab people of Palestine, who live under blockade in the Gaza Strip, live in conditions of mass killings, repression and reprisals. And these aggressive actions also extend to the territory of Lebanon. In addition, it must be said that there is no mechanism that would allow calling to account and justice those who unleashed this war, those who constantly violate human rights, violate the international legal order, the Charter of the United Nations, and the principles of international humanitarian law. Now many countries are also facing the threat that hangs over shipping in the Gulf of Aden and in the Red Sea. Your Majesty, Your Excellency, we highly appreciate the work of the BRICS Dance Forum, given that this forum is a platform for the development of cooperation, for strengthening mutual consultations between the BRICS countries, the countries of the South. And in this regard, I would like to emphasize the following points. First of all, it is necessary to do everything in order to get the maximum benefit from our interaction with international financial institutions. Secondly, we highly appreciate such meetings that are taking place today, as they are aimed at strengthening South-South cooperation, as well as at activating mechanisms such as the exchange of experience in various fields, the implementation of joint projects, and so on. Thirdly, it is also necessary to strengthen the mechanism of our mutual consultations. This is very important because we must resist attempts to impose unilateral decisions on the part of a number of countries. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I would like to emphasize Egypt's readiness for joint action within the framework of the BRICS Union of the countries of the South, which meets our common goals. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. Peace be upon you, mercy and blessings of the Almighty. Thank you very much. Egypt is actively working within the framework of BRICS and has become an invaluable, full-fledged member of the association. We very much hope that your country will make a significant contribution to the development and work of the entire organization. Thank you very much. I now give the floor to the representative of the Secretary of State of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. Please, please.
Your Excellency,
Mr. President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin.
the Russian Federation, Excellencies, Head of
Your Excellency, heads of state and government, distinguished members of the delegation. I would like to thank His Excellency Vladimir Putin for inviting BRICS members and representatives of the Global South to this important meeting today.
БРИКС и представители глобального юга на это важное заседание.
Today, our negotiations among developing countries with transforming economies will help us to establish South-South dialogue and South-South cooperation in order to accelerate the development of the South and improve global governance through our common vision and coinciding goals.
ускорить развитие Юга и улучшить глобальное управление.
Mr. President, as countries of the Global South, we feel a historic opportunity and responsibility to coordinate positions and work together to overcome the many crises that the world is facing today. Today, we can resolve conflicts that are evident in different regions of the world, reduce human suffering and alleviate it, achieve sustainable development goals by mobilizing development assistance and reducing the debt burden on our countries.
Снизить человеческие страдания и облегчить их, достичь целей устойчивого развития с помощью мобилизации помощи в области развития и снижения долгового бремени на наших стран.
We believe that transparent procedures for reducing the debt burden are achievable today. They will contribute to sustainable development. Access to a critical national agreement today is hampered by some of the conditions that are imposed on developing countries.
Некоторыми условиями, которые выставляются развивающимся странам.
And it is very important, so the necessary economic transformations and reforms are required. We understand that the share of developing countries and the importance of emerging markets is growing today. Therefore, we need to strengthen solidarity and partnership, speak with one voice, and use the process of global governance reform. Ethiopia believes that the reform of multilateral economic and financial institutions should be a priority of our cooperation, the main priority. We have to work hand in hand.
The decision-making process, expanding the representation of the global South, particularly
Necessary.
Africa, in the governance of the global
Providing
economic institutions.
the participation of Africa in the overall decision-making processes. It is also necessary to revise the quota system in order to reflect the current economic situation of developing member states. The Global South should strive to use the available opportunities for decision-making to provide new financial opportunities for development. Mr. President, Your Excellency, cooperation between the countries of the Global South has the potential for growth, for increasing the productivity of developing countries. In this regard, it is necessary to work diligently in order to increase the level of trade, investment, and financing for development goals. The market opportunities that arise when taking into account the level of the population are increasing against the background of technological development. The level of trade is also growing, and we can become a locomotive in this general process. It is necessary to remove trade barriers in order to use the emerging potential, open up the market, eliminate the appropriate quotas, and ensure the opportunities that exist in trade. Mr. President, Ethiopia is deeply concerned about the growing escalation of the conflict in Lebanon, in Gaza. Civilians are suffering, and the bleak consequences are unfolding before our eyes. Tensions are growing in the Middle East. We call for an immediate ceasefire and dialogue in order to put an end to the conflict. In all cases, civilians must be protected. All regional stakeholders should exercise maximum restraint and choose the path of dialogue and peaceful resolution of disputes. A two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian issue should ensure the peaceful achievement of the tasks set by the UN Security Council resolution. In this way, we will ensure lasting peace in this region. Mr. President, in conclusion, Ethiopia believes that South-South cooperation has the potential to make an important contribution to overcoming global challenges, maintaining peace, security, overcoming poverty, promoting development, and also overcoming the effects of climate change. In this regard, I would like to reiterate my country's commitment to consolidating the work of BRICS with emerging markets, developing countries based on the principles of equality, solidarity, and mutual respect. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much. Ethiopia has been actively involved in the work of BRICS, and I am sure that taking into account the pace of development of your country, its growth, its importance both in Africa and in the world, she will contribute to the work of our association in the future. Thank you. Please give the floor to the President of the Islamic Republic of Iran. In the name of the merciful, merciful God, dear Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, dear heads of state and government, Your Highness, Excellency.
Во имя Бога милостивого, милосердного, уважаемый Владимир Владимирович Путин, уважаемый главы государств, правительств, Ваше Высочество, Превосходительство.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that thanks to this joint interactive forum, as well as an inspiring one than this summit, like BRICS and the Global South, building a better world together, we will be able to take a significant step towards creating a better system and a fairer system in relation between our parties. This summit is the first BRICS Plus summit after the expansion. It is of great importance for the Islamic Republic of Iran and the new members. The accession of new members since the beginning of the 24th year and the expression of interest of many other countries in cooperation with BRICS demonstrates the success and growing influence of this group and this association. Dear colleagues, the formation of a coalition, the desire for constructive and friendly relations is part of today's reality, and the desire of many countries and international actors to free themselves from one-sidedness. Based on unilateral approaches and based on unipolar hegemony are extremely shaky. Many international structures and mechanisms that emerged from this approach, such as the Security Council, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and human rights institutions, and other examples, have lost their previous effectiveness. I think that you will all agree with me that this is why the unification of the BRICS, with its high popular goals, could become a successful model of cooperation and rapprochement between the parties at the regional and international level. The BRICS of global yoga, building a better world together, embodies the fact that building a better world is impossible alone. In today's interconnected world, joint will and action are necessary for fundamental changes that require reforming the current system and creating a more balanced one. A balanced order based on justice and also stability. In other words, it is better to call Belbi a place where there are no traces of imposed sanctions, acts of aggression, war and conquest or genocide. For the last year. Over the past year, our world has faced countless events. Many components of peace and security, especially in the West Asian region, have been weakened or threatened by many positions. The Zionist regime, contrary to international norms, and trampled on the sovereignty of many other states, and added another dark page to its history. With great regret, he continues to commit crimes and mercilessly kills women and children. The flames of war are still raging in the Gaza Strip. As you can see, the Lebanese cities are also in the form of twins. Both international institutions and bodies, first of all the UN Security Council, as the only force of international peace and security, do not have the necessary tools to extinguish this fire. Moreover, the unwavering support of Western countries, both led by the United States and the Sinitsky Zionist regime, will do everything possible for itself and in order to continue to move through the region and expand the war zone. The Islamic Republic of Iran is deeply convinced that regional and international crises cannot be resolved without joint efforts. Therefore, within the framework of our fundamental principles, we have always sought to create intelligent and more efficient networks of trade relations and make every effort to strengthen international cooperation. I think that despite the fact that in violation of all international norms and human rights, the imposition of unilateral sanctions has jeopardized international norms, and many development processes have faced problems. Due to the coercive and restrictive stranded political anger of the United States and Western countries. Therefore, BRICS and BRICS Plus should develop and implement transparent, fairer, more inclusive, and non-discriminatory principles of business cooperation, so that we have an excellent and transparent mechanism for multilateral trade with a special focus on the Global South and developing countries. Illegal sanctions have a devastating effect on international relations and hinder countries' access to their financial resources, making it difficult for them to participate effectively in international cooperation processes, such as combating the negative effects of climate change, global warming, and environmental degradation, and providing humanitarian assistance. Your Excellency, many countries that are members or countries cooperating with the BRICS group have dynamic and developing economies. This potential carries with it valuable opportunities that, with the extraction and efforts to create deep economic and trade ties, can bring the results and benefits we need. Using national currencies to trade new banking platforms, digital currencies, strengthening the new development bank and contingency reserve agreements, as well as similar measures, can create a better world for everyone, which is what we all strive for. New technologies, especially artificial intelligence, will have a strategic significant impact on our lives in the near future. Unilateral supporters, parties that conduct unilateral policies, as in the past, will impose many restrictions on access to these technologies. With great regret, to resist these restrictive measures, we must be together. We must cooperate with each other. We have to share developments and technologies among ourselves. Dear colleagues, the geographical coverage of the BRICS represents a unique opportunity to facilitate transcontinental ties, as well as to achieve common interests and common goals, which will have a significant impact on reducing the existing gap and development, as well as informing the welfare of the entire world population. The future belongs to the countries that play the greatest role in creating rapprochement and establishing a new order between all parties. In conclusion, I would like to thank my friend Mr. Vladimir Putin once again for the wonderful reception and holding of this important meeting in the beautiful city of Kazan. I wish you all success. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear Mr. President. We very much look forward to active work in Iran in our association. And of course, I would say in my opening remarks, we are all very concerned about the development of the situation in Gaza and in the region as a whole. And of course, we expect that all possible options will be used to reduce tension and to prevent the escalation of the conflict in the region as a whole. I talked to many colleagues yesterday. Everyone proceeds from this. And we also wish you success in resolving the complex knots and contradictions that are developing in the region. Thank you very much. Please give the floor to the President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Ramaphosa. Please.
Your Excellency, President Vladimir Putin,
Mr. Putin, Your Excellency, Dear leaders of the BRICS states, leaders of regional and global institutions, Your Excellency Secretary General of the United Nations Antonio Guterres, Your Excellency, ministers, ladies and gentlemen.
Антонио Гутерриш, Ваше Превосходительство, министры, дамы и господа.
First of all, I would like to congratulate Mr. Putin on his chairmanship of the BRICS summit.
Председательством в важном саммите БРИКС.
This is how we will come to the adoption of the most important declaration of the summit. BRICS South Reach and BRICS Plus are important platforms for developing strong ties between countries from the Great Global South and emerging markets, and these platforms should be used to ensure constructive interaction. We need to use the BRICS platform to contribute to the socio-economic and cultural aspects of the development of our peoples. We welcome Russian projects that are aimed at strengthening the BRICS state through various measures that are being implemented, in particular transport networks and interconnectedness.
Государств-членов БРИКС через различные меры, которые реализуются, в частности, сети транспорта, взаимосвязанности.
This will greatly help us to find ways to integrate and ensure interconnectedness between us in new and alternative ways.
Между нами новым и альтернативным способами.
The Africa Free Trade Area will make a significant contribution in order to take advantage of the available opportunities in the field of investment trade for global companies.
В области торговли инвестиций для глобальных компаний.
In addition, opportunities will be created that will lead to a more complex, interconnected continent.
Которые приведут к более комплексному, взаимосвязанному континенту.
The Unified Aviation Market of Africa is another major project in accordance with the agenda of the 2063rd year of the African Union. This is a nuclear power plant project to create a single one. In order to ensure the economic integration of the countries of the continent for the BRICS and friends of the BRICS countries, it is necessary to use the appropriate opportunities to increase the level of interconnectedness in the greater global south. Promoting the development of ties and trade in the region can be successful only under conditions of peace and stability.
В регионе может быть успешным только при условиях мира и стабильности.
Your Excellency, South Africa is concerned about the military actions being waged by the State of Israel against the people of Gaza. We described it with the word genocide. This is very disturbing for us. This genocide led South Africa to appeal to the International Court of Justice in order to stop the killing of innocent people, women and children in Gaza.
Для того, чтобы прекратить убийство невинных людей, женщин, детей в Газе.
In our opinion, the world cannot simply be an observer of the beating of innocent people. South Africa has always been committed to implementing all efforts to ensure a sustainable Palestinian state coexisting in peace with Israel, within internationally recognized borders.
В рамках международно признанных границ
1967, with East Jerusalem as its capital. In accordance with all UN resolutions, international law, and internationally agreed parameters, we call on the international community and the UN Security Council to address the issue of resolving this growing conflict in Sudan. In Africa, the second year of horrific conflict and destruction has begun.
Начался второй год ужасающего конфликта, разрушений.
This is another conflict that the world has seemingly forgotten.
Который, казалось бы, мир забыл.
The ongoing conflicts in the Sahel and in the Great Lakes region of Africa also continue. We must find lasting solutions to all these conflicts. We must remain committed to the peaceful resolution of all disputes through negotiations, through inclusive dialogue. We must enable states to pursue an independent foreign policy and preserve the multilateral system. After all, this is the cornerstone of international relations, and peace and development flourish on this basis. The existing global mechanisms and institutions must be strengthened and reformed in order to make a constructive contribution to ensuring peace and security on Earth. We cannot allow conflicts to continue indefinitely. We must find approaches to peace. In our quest to create a just and prosperous world, we need to create conditions of peace through an emphasis on sustainable development. In addition, it is necessary to continue to support states and peoples who want to put an end to the vicious circle of conflicts and finally move to peace. Thank you. Thank you very much, dear Mr. President. The Republic of South Africa is doing a lot for the development of our organization and for the situation in Africa to develop in a positive way. I am pleased to give the floor to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Brazil. Please.
Your Excellency, Mr. President Putin, heads of state and government, and invited guests. It is a great honor for me to represent President Lula at this plenary session of the BRICS Summit, and it is also very nice to be here among the friends of the BRICS. I am particularly pleased with the decision we have just made. BRICS is not just 5 letters. Behind these 5 letters, there is a reality that has been built up for very many years. BRICS owes a lot to the Group of 77 and the non-aligned movement. We are the heirs of those who fought for the new world economic order and who outlined the goals of sustainable development. We are the main driving forces of economic development that the world is experiencing in this century. The Global South is a positive force for peace. In the past, the Arab League has led a peace initiative offering a realistic and balanced solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Today, Egypt is an indispensable player in providing aid, humanitarian assistance to those in need in Gaza, while Qatar acts as a bridge between Hamas and the Israeli authorities. Brazil was the country that, during its presidency of the UN Security Council last October, for the first time proposed a resolution on the current situation in Gaza. It was rejected by a veto of one of the countries, Africa do Sul. South Africa was the country that courageously appealed to the International Court of Justice to put an end to the genocide against the Palestinian people. The countries of the Global South voted for a resolution of the UN General Assembly calling for a cessation of hostilities. Meanwhile, the role played by other countries was at least disappointing. Those who call themselves defenders of human rights turn a blind eye to the greatest atrocities of modern history. They undermine the authority of the Security Council and the integrity of international humanitarian law. There will be no peace until there is an independent Palestinian state. The decision on its existence was made 75 years ago by the United Nations. But the same one that created the state of Israel. Israel is now tied hand and foot. There is no justification for a terrorist act like what Hamas is committing, but Israel's disproportionate reaction has become a collective punishment of the Palestinian people. More explosives were thrown into Gaza than in Dresden, Hamburg, and London during the Second World War. And as the situation in Lebanon escalates, extreme caution will be required so that this conflict does not escalate into an all-out war. Avoiding escalation is also crucial in the conflict in Ukraine. This is a message that Brazil and China, as well as 11 countries, are trying to spread. We have created a peace club to create a dialogue and search for a long-term solution. And this decision will happen only through respect for the principles of sovereignty, territorial value, and consideration of legitimate security interests from all sides. We need the world to focus again on solving the biggest problems of our time. Brazil has chosen social integration, the fight against climate change and global governance reforms as its priorities during our presidency. Cuba's indicator, the example of Cuba, is indicative of the fact that its economy has been suffering for 6 decades, and now everything is being done to aggravate the energy and health situation in this country. We also renew our assurances of solidarity to the Cuban people and hope that measures will be taken and Cuba will be excluded from the countries that sponsor terrorism. And we believe that this inclusion was illegal. Brazil's priorities in the G20 are social integration, the fight against climate change, as well as the fight for global governance reforms and the creation of global finance institutions. We invite everyone to join the Global Alliance Against Poverty and Hunger. We strive to mobilize resources to implement policies against these problems. We also call on everyone to raise their ambitions for their national contributions to the fight against global warming. When preparing COP30 in Berlin, we can be even bolder and stronger, and we should not abandon the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities. We must combine our efforts not to be left behind in the energy transition and the digital revolution. We cannot limit ourselves to the position of suppliers of natural resources, working according to the same logic of the main exporters that existed a century ago, nor can we feel comfortable in the position of observers of the evolution of artificial intelligence. We must take a direct part in its regulation and receive fair compensation for the use of our data. This year, the G20 presidency has endorsed an important call to action on global governance reform, which has received the support of many countries present here. Brazil is considering the possibility of submitting proposals to the General Assembly to convene a conference on the revision of the UN Charter on the basis of Article 109. We want to explore these issues during our BRICS presidency next year, which will focus on strengthening global South cooperation for more inclusive and sustainable development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your input into our work. The floor to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of India, please.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, dear President Vladimir Putin, dear Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to represent the Prime Minister at the render fashion in the BRICS outreach format. I would like to greet you all on his behalf. Let me join my colleagues who have already thanked President Vladimir Putin for the excellent organization and hospitality. Your Excellency, we are faced with a paradox. It consists in the fact that big changes are taking place now, but some problems have only become more serious. On the one hand, it concerns the permanent, continuous diversification of consumption. The countries that have now gained independence from the colonial regime have accelerated their socio-economic progress. New potential and new opportunities have appeared, and there are more opportunities for people to use their talent. However, we are leading to a political and cultural imbalance, and now we need to think about creating a real multipolar world. BRICS is already evidence of how profoundly the old world order is changing. At the same time, we see that many problems that started in the past are continuing, and now they have found new forms and manifestations. We see this in the approach to managing modern technologies and resources. Let's recognize that the benefits of globalization are distributed in a very uneven way. In addition to all of this, the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated the burden borne by the global South. We see problems in the field of food, security, and healthcare. The Future Summit stressed that the world is in real danger, and we may not be able to cope with achieving the Sustainable Development Goal. How can we fix the situation? Is it important that the changes bear fruit for those who are now left behind? How can we ensure a fairer world order? First of all, by strengthening and expanding sites that are independent in nature and expanding the choice in various areas, while minimizing excessively, depending on those from whom we could refuse. Secondly, we can reform existing mechanisms and institutions. First of all, the UN-Security Council, including its permanent and non-permanent members. Thus, multilateral development banks are faced with the fact that their procedures are as hasty as those of the UN. During the G20 chairmanship, we tried to address this issue, and now we are glad to see that Brazil continues to work on these same topics. Third, it is necessary to form more production hubs. We need to remember that more sustainable supply chains are required in order to meet the needs of each region. And each region should have its own production facilities and capabilities.
Fourth,
we need to correct the distortions in the global structure that are the legacy of the colonial era. It is necessary that we have greater interconnectedness, transport interconnectedness, so that we can better cope with risks. This is a collective action that benefits everyone, while it is necessary to respect territorial integrity and sovereignty. Finally, we can share our experience and initiatives with each other. We are forming a digital infrastructure. We can form new payment infrastructures and interfaces. All this is a very important task. In the coalition to build disaster-resistant infrastructure, various initiatives, that is, we turn on the Alliance for Big Cats. These are all initiatives that find a great response among many, They help us cope with natural disasters or economic crises. In all these areas, we need to contribute. Your Excellency, it is necessary to respond effectively to the existing problems. Prime Minister fashion, I would like to emphasize that we are not living in an era of war now. There are disagreements, there are disputes, but they must be resolved through dialogue and diplomacy. And when we conclude an agreement, it is very important to comply with them. International law must be respected without any exceptions. And we should have no tolerance towards terrorism. Your Excellency, the situation in the Middle East is a natural cause for concern. We are afraid that the conflict will spread further across the regions. Maritime trade has already suffered from this. The human and material consequences of further escalation will be significant, and any approach must be fair and lasting. It should lead to the creation of two states. Your Excellency, we are meeting at a difficult time. The world should be ready to reflect with a fresh look on solutions. It is important that we are ready for decisive action. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. India demonstrates the unique growth rate, 7.5% of GDP, and a population of 10 million plus every year is, of course, impressive, makes a serious contribution to the development of our organization. And I want to congratulate you on the successes that India is demonstrating. Thank you very much. Please, the word of the Deputy, Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation. First of all, I would like to convey greetings from Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, President of the State of the United Arab Emirates. I would like to express my gratitude to you, as well as to thank the Russian presidency of the BRICS this year. We highly appreciate these efforts, which are aimed at strengthening international dialogue at the very moment when we need joint activities in order to face the existing challenges. And now that Russia is chairing the BRICS, a common collective vision is crystallizing, not only to solve problems, but also to see the future. The track of the future, which would guarantee the well-being and prosperity of all the peoples of the world. It must be said that the BRICS Union is not limited only to economic cooperation. This is an example of the partnership that allows our countries to use each other's experience. And this is the basis from which the United Arab Emirates proceeds, which has put this principle at the forefront. And we believe and are convinced that a true partnership should be based on common interests, not on short-term benefits. Today, we are gathering together with our BRICS friends. And today, we see that the world is facing unprecedented challenges that affect essentially every state, regardless of its level of economy and its geographical location. I am referring to economic transformations, climate change, and other challenges that we face, for example, in the energy sector. And that is exactly the purpose, as well as the essence of our cooperation in uniting the BRICS. We must adhere to the Charter of the United Nations and the Security Council resolutions as the basis of our cooperation. The realization of peace and stability throughout the world, of course, is connected with the creation of a common international world front that is able to withstand the existing challenges, which is able to put an end to the suffering of people, civilians in conflict areas.
Вызовом, который способен положить конец страданиям людей, гражданского населения в районах конфликтов.
On this basis, we call for an immediate ceasefire and hostilities in the Gaza Strip, so that, without any conditions, humanitarian aid can be delivered to the representatives of the civilian settlement in need.
Гуманитарной помощи нуждающимся в ней представителям гражданского населения.
In Lebanon, regarding the situation around Lebanon, we see the need to confirm our common actions and the actions of the international community aimed at reducing tension and escalation, and also to immediately cease fire in this region of the world.
И также на то, чтобы немедленно прекратить огонь в этом регионе мира.
Your Excellency, one of the most important topics of today's meeting is the strengthening of cooperation between the friendly countries of the BRICS group in various fields such as trade, investment, sustainable development, transport, food security, and so on, and so on.
Устойчивое развитие, транспорт, продовольственная безопасность и так далее, и так далее.
And in this regard, our state is convinced of the need to expand the scope of cooperation with partner countries as an opportunity for the development of a common economic strategy.
Как возможность для развития общей экономической стратегии.
In today's world, multilateralism is not an alternative, it is a necessity, because the challenges we face, be it economic challenges in the field of climate change, socially and so on, are all of them. They cannot be fought by each country separately. Therefore, multilateralism is the foundation of both stability and development. Our state understands that the main role played by developing countries now belongs to these countries, and we believe that the countries of the Global South should be partners in implementing such economic policies, and our country participating in the BRICS, as well as cooperating with partners of the BRICS countries, friendly countries, is aimed at strengthening cooperation openness, and we believe in the need to create a closer partnership, using various platforms and platforms for this.
Стран БРИКС, дружными странами, нацелено на укрепление сотрудничества, открытости, и мы верим в необходимость создания более тесного партнерства и использования для этого различных платформ и площадок.
We continue to support the plans of the BRICS Association to expand the scope of cooperation and interaction with friendly countries. And we are ready to deepen this cooperation in the future. Your Excellency, I would like to once again express my gratitude to you personally, to Russia, for the excellent organization of work, for the hospitality, and we hope that the results of our work today will serve to strengthen cooperation between us. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. For my part, I ask you to convey my best wishes and words of gratitude to the President of the United Arab Emirates for his active participation in our work. Thank you. Please give the floor to the Chairman of the African Union, the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Sheikh Al-Ghazani. Thank you, Your Excellency the President of the Russian Federation, Your Excellency, the President of the Russian Federation Vladimir Putin, Chairman of the BRICS Association this year. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like first of all to address with words of sincere gratitude to His Excellency Vladimir Putin, the President of the Russian Federation, and for his kind invitation to participate in the 16th session of the BRICS Group, which is held under the slogan Strengthening Multilateralism as the basis of our actions.
Принять участие в этой 16-й сессии группы БРИКС, которая проходит под лозунгом укрепления многосторонности как основа наших действий.
Thank you for your hospitality and for the warm welcome. I would also like to express my satisfaction on behalf of, on my own behalf, on behalf of the African Union, for the appreciation and for the efforts that are being made to ensure that the African Union takes its rightful place in the group of 20. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the BRICS Association is today one of the most important platforms for the development of multilateral cooperation, especially between the countries of the Global South. And the gradual expansion of our association, and at the same time, certain differences in the level of development of these member countries, indicate that we are convinced that this development is not the prerogative of any individual countries.
Что развитие это не является прерогативой каких-то отдельных стран.
This is a legitimate right of all states without exception, regardless of their level of development. Therefore, we must listen to the voices of all members, of all our friends and partners, in order to observe and respect the priorities that guide them.
Чтобы соблюдать и уважать те приоритеты, которыми они руководствуются.
And, of course, in order to become sustainable, our cooperation must first of all be comprehensive. And this is our main demand, and our position in the African Union in relation to the goals of our development. We believe that a certain slowdown in the implementation of the development goals, sustainable development, and sometimes the inability to overcome all the difficulties we face, both in the field of security, the economy, and the environment, we believe that this encourages all of us to act in such a way as to overcome the insufficient levels of development, economic development of a number of countries, to overcome the imbalance. Taking into account the situation in the economies of a number of countries today, we can say that we and the African Union as a whole, to a certain extent, need to revive, if I may say so, our former dynamics of relations, give it a new breath.
Определенной мере нуждается в том, чтобы реанимировать, если можно так сказать, нашу прежнюю динамику отношений, придать ей новое дыхание.
Therefore, we must use all the opportunities provided to us for development in order to solve problems such as debt, which naturally hinders our efforts to achieve development.
Чтобы решить такие проблемы, как задолженность, которая, естественно, мешает нашим усилиям по достижению развития.
We must overcome all difficulties together, and at the same time, we see that the level of representation of the African continent in various international, especially financial multilateral organizations, is still insufficient, which does not allow these countries to keep up with the agenda that many countries in the world are guided by today.
Также идти в ногу с повесткой дня, которой сегодня руководствуются многие страны в мире.
In general, we can say that it is necessary to develop a new charter for financing development, which would be a more flexible and sustainable mechanism compared to what it was before.
И устойчивым механизмом по сравнению с тем, что было раньше.
Despite the fact that the revision of the international financial system is a negative thing, despite this, the reformatting of the rules of political administration and management should be connected at the same time with the solution of the issue of security and peace.
Администрирование и управление должно быть связано в то же самое время с решением вопроса безопасности и мира.
Therefore, it must be said that naturally we should avoid succumbing to various tricks, trying to do so, resorting to double standards in the policies of a number of countries without taking into account universal values.
сделать так, прибегать к двойным стандартам в политике ряда стран, не учитывая при этом общечеловеческие ценности.
And naturally, we should be concerned about the situation of Palestine in Lebanon. I would like to say that the lack of international solidarity and international cooperation explains some of our problems, including on the African continent, when we cannot put an end to violence and terrorism, which still hampers our efforts on the path of development.
С насилием, с терроризмом, который до сих пор сковывает наши усилия по пути развития.
We are interested in achieving stability and security at the international level.
Стабильности и безопасности на международном уровне.
And naturally, for this we are necessary. We must unite, show our solidarity and multilateral cooperation. We must all strengthen and deepen our awareness of the fact that we have a universal destiny and that we must act together to strengthen peace and security.
И то, что мы должны действовать совместно для укрепления мира и безопасности.
None of us can achieve peace alone. We must do it together and not use only individual cases or occasions for this.
И не использовать для этого только отдельные какие-то случаи или поводы.
Therefore, we are in favor of strengthening multilateral cooperation, international solidarity, and reforms of the international governance system, and so on.
Международной системы управления.
In this regard, I would like to appeal again from this rostrum to give the African continent, to grant it a permanent seat in the Unsecurity Council so that the voice of the African Union, of the African continent, can be heard in the international arena.
Африканского союза, африканского континента был слышен на международной арене.
And this is our common task.
Нашей общей задачей.
I wish success to our summit.
Успехов нашему саммиту.
I repeat once again, I wish you success, and I am convinced that the results of our work will make a great contribution to strengthening multilateral cooperation in the interests of security and equitable development throughout the world. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. The African Union plays a very important role on the continent, with which Russia has special historical deep ties. We wish you success and thank you for participating in our work. Thank you very much. I give the floor to the President of the Republic of Belarus, Alexander Grigoryevich Lukashenko. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, I congratulate you on your successful presidency. Everything is on time and very effective. For a short period by historical standards, the association has become the center of attraction. It is with him that more and more countries associate their idea of a just world order. In such a world order, where the equality of sovereign states is ensured, regardless of their size, military and economic power, where the right of everyone to independently determine the ideology of development and pursue an independent foreign policy is recognized. BRICS is the community of the future. In terms of its potential, it can bring closer the end of the history of the domination of the collective West, which has proved unable to bear responsibility for the civilized development of international relations. It is in the power of the BRICS member states to make sure that the real levers of influence pass into the hands of the progressive world majority. We fully share the BRICS philosophy. Belarus is coming to you with concrete ideas and projects designed to help solve universal problems. We are ready to become an active participant of the association. Belarus is traditionally a responsible and effective partner. The geographical position in the center of Europe, experience and achievements allow us to say with confidence that Belarus will become another important puzzle in the emerging image of the future of our organization. Participation in Belarus expands the boundaries of the possibilities of the association, making it more universal and comprehensive. Let me outline a few areas in the implementation of which we can play a certain role. The first one is security. Mutual respect, indivisible security, guarantees of country development without confrontation, are the principles on which our new world order should be built from our point of view. The second is sustainable development. For many countries of the global majority, as well as for us, the task of building sustainable, economically self-sufficient states, in the absence of large reserves of natural resources, geographical and climatic advantages, is especially urgent. Belarus is coping with this. We are ready to offer our historical experience, how to become stronger ourselves and make others stronger. How, despite the sanctions pressure and the attempts of the color revolutions to preserve and increase human potential, ensure high social standards and decent quality of life, commercialize innovations, and quickly master technologies. Third, we have already talked about this: the fight against hunger, poverty, and the effects of climate change. Belarus is one of the world's leading exporters of mineral fertilizers, a wide range of food products, agricultural machinery and technologies. We are making our contribution to ensuring food security in the world, and we are ready to cooperate with colleagues in the field of agricultural science on the adaptation of crops to climate change, land reclamation, and the involvement of land in agricultural turnover. The fourth humanitarian sphere. Belarusian education is valued in the world. Representatives of more than 110 countries come to us for diplomas in the most popular modern specialties. An important factor in the successful development of our sovereign state is a strong scientific school. Among the priorities are energy-efficient technologies, nanomaterials and new energy sources, industrial biotechnologies, medicine and the IT sphere. Belarus has developed a number of competencies in the aerospace field and is ready to contribute to the implementation of the initiative to create BRICS satellite systems and, in the future, the Space Research Consortium. We will be glad to share our experience and scientific and practical results. Dear friends, Belarus has a high level of interaction and trusting relations with the absolute majority of countries whose representatives are present in this hall. We have a long history of successful cooperation with many of them. Now we can supplement our achievements on the bilateral track with new achievements in the integration format. Minsk confirms its full readiness for full membership in our organization. Thank you for your attention. Dear Alexander Grigoryevich, thank you for your speech. Belarus demonstrates good rates and qualities of development in the economic and social spheres, and, of course, will certainly contribute to the work of our organization. Thank you very much. I give the floor to the President of the Lao People's Democratic Republic and the Chairman of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. At the same time, please, Mr. Susalit.
Your Excellency, President Putin, President of the Russian Federation, distinguished heads of state and government of the BRICS organization, ladies and gentlemen, It is a great honor and privilege for me to receive an invitation to the BRICS Outreach Summit from Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is chairing the 16th BRICS Summit, which provided an opportunity to join the heads of state and government of the BRICS member countries, developing countries of the Global South, here in this beautiful city of Kazan.
здесь, в этом прекрасном городе Казани.
Your Excellency, the international community is facing numerous challenges today, and therefore it is increasingly difficult to imagine how the world's future will develop further.
Предположить, как мировое будущее будет развиваться дальше.
These challenges pose a serious threat to global peace, stability, and security, as well as seriously undermine the development efforts of many countries, including developing countries. Today, more than ever, BRICS plays an irreplaceable role in changing the world order and the creation of cooperation mechanisms that will be mutually convenient and effective for all countries, especially for the developing countries of the Global South, which in turn helps us build a better future. These commitments are fully consistent with the theme of today's meeting, the joint construction of a better world. In this regard, I would like to commend the Russian Federation, as the founding country of the BRICS, for having taken the main initiatives, established the necessary framework for cooperation, and helped us overcome the economic and financial difficulties that the international community is facing. Your Excellency,
сложности, с которыми сталкивается международное сообщество, Ваше Превосходительство.
The Lao People's Democratic Republic counts on multilateral mechanisms as the main mechanisms for achieving sustainable cooperation, and we also note the decisive role of creating multilateral cooperation in the spirit of multilateral mechanisms, which is especially necessary for creating peace, security, and equitable development. Laos became the chairman of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in order to develop sustainability. We have identified 9 key areas, including economic integration, inclusive, sustainable growth, economic, humanitarian cooperation, cooperation in the field of healthcare, as well as the empowerment of women and youth.
In addition, we want to create an effective mechanism of interaction that will strengthen the work and cooperation between the Asian members and the ASEAN dialogue partners, which also include the BRICS countries. In this regard, let me share some thoughts with you. First of all, the Losco People's Political Republic believes that BRICS is an effective mechanism of interaction that has a great potential for influence on the global arena. Therefore, we call on the BRICS to continue to strengthen their leadership and move the world towards fair development and equality. BRICS and developing countries should strengthen multilateral, bilateral cooperation, helping each other, and increasing assistance to the Global South in critical areas such as trade, investment, tourism, digital transformation, clean energy through carbon quotas, education, human capital. All this will create favorable conditions.
Человеческий капитал, все это создаст благоприятные условия.
To achieve the unsustainable development goals until the 2030th year, and will ensure the inclusiveness of the implementation of these goals.
инклюзивность выполнения этих целей.
In light of the significant achievements of BRICS and the growing importance of BRICS on the world stage, the Lao People's Political Republic wants to formally declare its interest in becoming a member of BRICS. We are ready to increase the level of our interaction with BRICS on a wide range of issues. We hope for your support and acceptance of Laos as a future member of the BRICS group. Conclusion. The Lao People's Political Republic is firmly committed to cooperation and interaction with the BRICS countries, developing countries, with the nations of the Global South. We are confident that the results of our discussions at this summit will be the strengthening of our partnership in order to build a better world for all people. And I wish this BRICS summit all the best and success. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for participating in our work both as head of state and as chairman of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Asia as a whole, South Asia, and Southeast Asia are developing rapidly, and, of course, this will be one of the priorities of our joint participation in the work in this region. Thank you. I give the floor to the President of the Republic of Turkey, Mr. Tayyip Erdogan, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Dear Chairman of the President and Chairman of the Government, I sincerely greet you on behalf of my nation. I am very pleased with the opportunity to participate in the expanded BRICS South Reach Plus meeting. I would like to thank Mr. Putin for his hospitality. I also congratulate him for the successful holding of this summit. And, in addition, I wish success to the next president of Brazil, who will be the BRICS chairman. I thank all the friends who expressed their condolences in connection with the vile terrorist attack that took place here yesterday. But this attack will only strengthen our resolve in the fight against terrorism. Today we see that we are facing a huge number of challenges, ranging from security, terrorism, climate, and food. Therefore, the BRICS, which allows us to coordinate positions on these issues, is of particular importance during this period. Against the background of fragility in socioeconomic development, change, we see that the system that was formed after the Second World War, the financial system, needs to be changed. So it is necessary to develop a more comprehensive approach, a more balanced approach. It is necessary to try to find solutions to problems using our collective intelligence to connect all participants to this. BRICS will allow it. BRICS provides. We believe that BRICS provides an incomparable contribution to the construction of a new just global world order. In addition, it is necessary to develop. In addition, Turkey is a founding country of such organizations as, for example, the Black Sea Economic Cooperation, participates in a number of different multilateral platforms, including the G20. We have and are developing mechanisms for cooperation with countries in almost all regions. We build cooperation on the logic of wins, so that each side wins. Building a just world order and sustainable development is possible only by ensuring stability and security on our borders. Without stopping the bloodshed, without stopping the crises, we will not be able to ensure development. Israel continues its aggressive policy, does not want to stop the bloodshed, and this has already exceeded all reasonable, unreasonable limits. And he, Israel, has taken this crisis to a new level by attacking Lebanon. But no one, nothing can turn him away from responsibility. We proceed from the fact that the sinning of the crisis is possible only on the basis of the formation and creation of an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. This is an inalienable requirement. Therefore, supporting Israel with weapons and ammunition without any conditions will only increase the crisis and instability. Need 2. We have launched an initiative aimed at suspending trade for the sale of weapons to Israel, including within the framework of the UN. We count on your support in this matter. We need to stop the bloodshed and the tears that are being shed by people in this region suffering from this violence as soon as possible. I hope that this meeting will take place. It will benefit our common work, and once again, I congratulate you on holding this summit. Thank you very much, dear Mr. President. Turkey, under your leadership, pursues an independent foreign policy, which is highly respected, and we cooperate well bilaterally. We do a lot together to resolve various difficult situations in the region. I am sure that Turkey's work within our organization will also be in great demand. Thank you. I give the floor to the President of Uzbekistan, Shavkat Mironovich Mirziyoyev. Dear heads of delegation, I would like to join the words of gratitude addressed to the President of the Russian Federation, dear Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, for the traditional warm welcome and the excellent organization of our event in ancient Kazan, a city of 1,000 years of history, where the culture of the East and the West harmoniously combines. The speeches of my distinguished colleagues confirm the importance of meetings in the BRICS Plus format for a broad dialogue and open discussion of topical issues of global development. Unfortunately, today, the world is rapidly moving towards a split. There is a growing number of wars and conflicts that bring people great suffering, deep pain, and irreparable losses. Fragmentation of the world economy and trade increases inequality, technological gap, and protectionism. New barriers between countries arise. In these conditions, BRICS, acting on the basis of principles such as equality of non-blocs, consideration of each other's interests, respect, sovereignty, and the right to their own path of development, acts as an authoritative and dynamic association of multilateral cooperation and partnership. We are convinced that such a model of interaction can become a solid foundation for the formation of a new architecture, of a more just world order, while maintaining the central role of the United Nations. I support the calls that have been made for achieving a global compromise through constructive dialogue, free geopolitical rivalry, national egoism, and ideological bias. We believe that the time has come for the reform of global governance institutions and the expansion of responsible dialogue in the South-South and North-South formats. Dear summit participants, during the productive Russian presidency, Uzbekistan took an active part in the BRICS Youth Summit and Sports Games, the Legal and Parliamentary Forum, high-level security meetings, and other events. We intend to further deepen our partnership with the BRICS countries more actively. We will effectively use the new opportunities that open up within the framework of this association. We share the fundamental commitment of the BRICS countries to develop cooperation in order to solve the problems of worsening global inequality and inclusive economic recovery. First of all, we are talking about supporting national programs of developing countries aimed at overcoming acute social and environmental challenges, reducing poverty, reducing the technological gap, and modernizing infrastructure. Multilateral financial institutions can and should play an important role in this. Uzbekistan intends to establish close cooperation with the new BRICS Development Bank to implement priority investment and social projects. We are also interested in expanding practical cooperation in such areas as innovation, digital economy, green development, and energy barrier-free, electronic commerce. We hope to take part in joint research projects of the BRICS Group on artificial intelligence to anticipate possible risks and to develop common management standards in this area. We are ready to join the newly created BRICS Competence Center at the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, as well as the proposed investment platform. Together with our BRICS partner, we expect to work closely to strengthen transport connectivity, create new transcontinental corridors, form reliable logistics supply chains, and develop a coastal transportation system. The focus of our attention will also be on issues of ensuring food and energy security, overcoming the negative consequences of climate change, and protecting health. We support the development of business contacts within the association. We suggest considering the possibility of connecting all interested countries to the BRICS Business Council. Dear colleagues, the priority area of partnership in the BRICS space, of course, remains the issues of countering the threat. Threats and challenges of international terrorism. Particular attention should be paid to the problem of prevention of radicalization and the spread of extremist ideology, especially among young people. Sharing our concern about the aggravation, escalation of conflicts in the Middle East. It is increasingly transformed into a potential hotbed of a global crisis with the involvement of neighboring countries and major powers in it. We perceive with pain in our hearts the unprecedented humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza and Lebanon. No political goals can justify innocent civilian casualties, especially among children. Today, the urgent tasks are the immediate ceasefire and the provision of emergency assistance to the victims. We believe that the only solution to the Israeli-Palestinian problem remains the peaceful settlement of conflicts on the principle of two states for two peoples. Speaking about global and regional security, we cannot ignore the problem of Afghanistan. Our common task is not to isolate, but to help the Afghan people, the current authorities of this country, in solving urgent problems of socio-economic development, peaceful construction, and progress. Dear participants of the summit, Uzbekistan is ready for close mutually beneficial cooperation with the BRICS countries to achieve common sustainable development goals. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, dear Mr. President. Uzbekistan demonstrates impressive rates of economic and demographic development under your leadership. I want to thank you, yes, even more, and the development potential is very great. This is also paying attention to yourself. Thank you for participating in the forum's events throughout the year. Thank you. And we pay a lot of attention to issues related to the situation in Palestine. I would like to give the floor to the President of Palestine, Mr. Mahmoud Abbas. Stolen. Thank you. Mr. President Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, race, President of the Russian Federation, and Chairman of the BRICS this year. Dear leaders of the BRICS member states, I welcome you all. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to all those present for inviting Palestine to participate in the summit, which is being held to strengthen partnership relations between the BRICS countries and the Global South.
партнерских связей между странами БРИКС и глобальным югом.
This makes it possible to develop cooperation in various fields, in energy, security, culture, ensuring peace, and gives a new impetus to solving urgent problems, in particular the solution of the Palestinian problem.
И придает новый импульс решению актуальных проблем, в частности, решению палестинской проблемы.
Thanks to this, we can build a better world for everyone. In this regard, I would like to congratulate the new countries that have joined the group: the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran. Indeed, your joining the group demonstrates its growing political weight and influence in the international arena.
Действительно, ваше вступление в группу демонстрирует ее растущий политический вес и влияние на международной арене.
We hope that the state of Palestine will also be accepted into the ranks of the group in the near future.
В будущем примут в ряды группы.
The serious development of the BRICS group and the growing desire of many countries to join it is nothing but the desire of everyone to work out a new world order, more just and balanced, especially in light of the inability of many supranational structures, to find a solution to the current crisis and long-standing problems that the world suffers from today, and, in particular, the solution to the Palestinian problem.
Найти решение текущим кризисам и застарелым проблемам, от которых страдает сегодняшний мир, и в частности решение палестинской проблемы.
For a whole year now, the Palestinian people have been suffering from a humanitarian catastrophe, the largest since the Nakba of 1948, the exodus of Palestinians from their lands. Israel is waging a destructive war, practicing genocide, ethnic cleansing in the Gaza Strip, trying to oust Gatsavicians from their native land.
Этнические чистки в секторе Газа, пытаясь вытеснить газовитян за пределы своей родной земли.
Especially nowadays crimes are taking place in the northern part of the enclave, where people are simply starved.
Где людей просто-напросто морят голодом.
We are also witnessing the aggression of radical settlers in the west bank of the Jordan River.
Радикальных поселенцев на западном берегу реки Иордан.
All this violates the norms of international law and expands the geography of the conflict.
И расширяет географию конфликта.
The Israeli government has decided to close the UNRWA central office in East Jerusalem, which makes it impossible to meet the priority needs of Palestinian refugees in the occupied Palestinian territories.
Делает невозможным обеспечение первоочередных потребностей палестинских беженцев на оккупированных палестинских территориях.
It is necessary to condemn such actions and force the Israeli government to abandon such practices.
отказаться от подобных практик.
Therefore, it is extremely important to implement as soon as possible the decision of the UN Security Council on a ceasefire, ensuring humanitarian access and the complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Gaza Strip, so that the state of Palestine can return refugees to their homes and deal with post-conflict reconstruction.
Государство Палестина могла вернуть в свои дома беженцев и заняться вопросами постконфликтного восстановления.
Dear heads of state delegations,
Делегации государств.
justice for the Palestinian people, its realization, is a test of strength for us. After 76 years since the Nakba, eviction from their lands, violence against our people.
Лет со времен Накбы, выселения со своих земель, насилие в отношении нашего народа.
Finally, the moment has come when we need to put an end to violence, injustice, and the proliferation of Israel's aggressive activities. It is necessary to implement the resolution of the UN General Assembly on the basis of the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice of the United Nations.
Генассамблеи ООН на основе консультативного заключения Международного суда ООН.
It is necessary to force Israel to stop its illegitimate presence on Palestinian lands and in East Jerusalem, so that they do it in 1 year. If this does not happen, sanctions should be applied against them.
Сделали за 1 год. Если этого не произойдет, нужно применить против них санкции.
We also need to work and cooperate with the UN and interested parties to hold an international peace conference.
Для проведения международной конференции по миру.
In this regard, we count on the support of the
И
BRICS.
на поддержку BRICS.
This group is really influential in the international arena and is able to solve many security-related issues.
Арене и способна решить множество вопросов, связанных с безопасностью.
Dear heads of state, Palestine considers the principles on which BRICS is based to be important for the implementation of the group's policy in connection with development, justice, and
Для
dialogue.
проведения политики группы в связи с развитием, справедливостью и диалогом.
These values are consonant with what the Palestinian people are striving
Тому,
for.
к чему стремится палестинский народ.
We thank the heads of the BRICS member states for their support of the Palestinian problem and the desire of the Palestinian people for independence and freedom.
Независимости и свободе.
We reaffirm once again the desire of the state of Palestine to join the BRICS group, strengthen partnerships and interactions, and participate in various events of the group.
Участвовать в различных мероприятиях группы.
We are ready to follow the spirit of the BRICS group and share its values in order to achieve our goals and build bridges of partnership for a better future for everyone.
Реализации намеченных целей и наведения мостов партнерства ради лучшего будущего для всех.
Thank you very much.
Вам спасибо.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your speech, and I wish you success in the work of the summit.
И желаю успеха в работе саммита.
Thank you very much, dear Mr. President. You have drawn attention to the interaction between BRICS and the Global South. This is one of our main areas. As for the situation in Palestine, of course, unfortunately, there are many armed conflicts on the planet. Yes, here we also have the same thing happening on the borders, to our great regret. But the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza is, of course, a special situation. And everything that happens there cannot but be given and is given pain in the heart of the vast majority of people on the planet. We all have to do everything to change the situation radically. And at the heart of this, of course, is the creation of a Palestinian state, as provided for by the relevant decisions of the United Nations. It is necessary to implement all these decisions in full. Thank you very much for participating in our work today. Please give the floor to the President of Venezuela, Mr. Maduro. Good afternoon.
Добрый день.
Dear President Vladimir Putin,
Владимир Путин,
Our dear friends, representatives of the BRICS countries. I was preparing a speech, a text, but I see this discussion, a very important discussion. And I kept certain notes during this discussion, and I want to say the following. A constant search in terms of building a new world order. I should note that over the past 60 or 70 years, I must congratulate you, dear President Putin, for the role played by the Russian Federation in holding this successful summit. Venezuela has participated to a modest extent in all forums, in all general meetings. These are more than 200 meetings, and all of them were aimed at finding practical deprivations to the needs of our world. A world that strives to create a new world, as ancient as the world itself. The United Nations system has concentrated the efforts of all powers and all peoples, and a truly system has been created that has generated great hopes and defined the basic foundations of international law.
И определила основные основы международного права.
And all the states of the planet followed these principles, but the search for change, which the representative of Brazil spoke about, were great leaders who founded the movement of non-affiliated countries, which already in the 50s and 60s, with the participation of Egypt, Indonesia, Cuba, which were the main countries that developed the policy of decolonization of African and Asian countries, the search for independence of new, and of course, this movement of non-aligned countries played a role, a crucial role at a certain moment.
Деколонизации стран Африки и Азии, поиск независимости новых государств. И, конечно, это движение неприсоединившихся стран сыграло свою роль, важнейшую роль в определенный момент.
And the UN system was also created for security in the world. I am saying this for Mr. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. But epochs are replacing one another, and a new era has emerged, and new superpowers have emerged. New powers and countries that, to a modest extent, like Venezuela, for example, Latin America, or the Caribbean, our fraternal countries Cuba, Bolivia, Nicaragua, are also represented here. And we, of course, to a modest extent, but we strive to realize our dreams through our efforts. And we strive to ensure that our right to independence, to the future, and to development is respected. And we are trying to somehow influence the agenda of world issues. And I recall the declaration adopted in Augsburg, as well as in Kazan. In particular, they talk about economic solutions, about practical world trade, so that there are solutions for financial necessities. And these are new needs, gentlemen presidents. And we need to talk about this openly and quite clearly, because we all understand the need to implement these new needs. It is not enough just to reform the financial and monetary system. And sometimes it seems that these systems can no longer withstand any reforms because the former countries, the colonial countries of the West, are trying to impose their hegemony again through the mechanisms of hegemonic currencies, through a system of financial loans, certain non-financial economic packages and conditions. Therefore, Venezuela welcomes and emphasizes the need to take bolder steps in order to consolidate the activities of the new BRICS Development Bank so that the countries of the Global South have the opportunity for development, so that we move forward in a new payment system that would replace payment systems that are sometimes used as a tool for aggression. And we, Venezuela, has experienced the impact of such a policy, and you are well aware of this. It is necessary to create a currency basket that combines the strong currencies of the superpowers with the right and have your own currency, each of our countries. We must look for solutions for the development of inclusive economies of our countries, countries striving for dignity. In addition, the United Nations system needs to be reformed. I told Antonio Guterres, the UN-Secretary General, because every rocket that hits residential buildings in the Gaza Strip, new people are killed, wounded in Beirut or in southern Lebanon. All these missiles are destroying the United Nations system, where the International Criminal Court, or they are only using it to prosecute the countries of the Global South, where the international justice system is only to issue documents and communications. And where is life? Where is the plant about the lives of women and children in the Global South? Let's look for a practical plan, a bold plan to reform the United Nations system, which, in fact, organizes before the creation of fascist regimes against the background of a historically painful conjuncture. A new world that needs to be created. We believe that it is already being born. And BRICS is the epicenter of the birth of this new world, a world that is based on deeply humane principles. I spoke yesterday at our bilateral meeting with President Vladimir Putin. I said that Venezuela belongs to the BRICS family. And I thank you for the invitations you have expressed to our country. And the President of Venezuela is participating in the BRICS meeting for the first time, and we, of course, share the principles of BRICS, absolutely convinced. Historically, we have been convinced for 2 centuries, when our liberator Simon Bolivar, holding a saber in his hand, liberated our peoples, our continent, and he fought for balance throughout the world. And while Rafael Chavez Free, our commander, said that we are waiting for this multipolar, multicentric world. And, gentlemen presidents, Mr. President, you can count on the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela to implement this historic project. Thank you so much. Dear Mr. President, Venezuela, under your leadership, continues the policy of Commander Chavez to strengthen the sovereignty of the country, demonstrating good development rates. Last year it was 5.5%. This year it will be more than 7%. So I am sure in this sense that we are on the right track, and the legitimate government formed under your leadership after the elections has certainly done a lot for the development of both Venezuela and cooperation with other countries, including within the perimeter of our BRICS organization. Thank you for your presentation. Please give the floor to the President of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Tokayev. Dear heads of state, dear Secretary General of the United Nations, First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to President of the Russian Federation Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin for the invitation and excellent organization of the BRICS summit in Kazan, a unique historical center of the Eurasian continent. BRICS has become a global center of international attraction, which is of practical interest to many countries, seeking mutually beneficial cooperation. BRICS has a huge potential for development and unites states from different continents, strengthening solidarity and effectively using joint opportunities for the benefit of all participants. BRICS has both the resources and the experience to build a future based on the principles of shared prosperity, mutual respect, and partnership. It is extremely important for Kazakhstan that we have developed truly friendly relations with each of the BRICS member states. There is no doubt that the BRICS multilateral efforts will harmoniously complement the activities of the United Nations, which continues to be an indispensable and universal structure. The principles of diplomacy and dialogue laid down in the UN Charter have become the basis of the BRICS agenda, contributing to the peaceful settlement of conflicts and strengthening strategic stability. We highly appreciate Russia's concept of creating equal and indivisible security in Eurasia, aimed at reducing geopolitical tensions through strengthening mutual trust and cooperation. Kazakhstan supports China's global security initiative aimed at preserving international stability, protecting sovereignty, using multilateral approaches and peaceful conflict resolution. Kazakhstan generally supports the peace plan of China and Brazil on Ukraine. Our country shares the concern of the BRICS member states about the aggravation of the situation in the Middle East, which has led to a huge number of human casualties and a humanitarian catastrophe. The joint elimination of the root causes of conflicts, such as poverty, inequality, and lack of education, in our opinion, remains a key factor in strengthening international political solidarity. Kazakhstan supports the reform of the UN Security Council and its expansion with new members from Africa, Latin America, and Asia. The voices of the countries of the Global South should be weighty in addressing issues of peace and security. BRICS can play a key role in this process by strengthening the representation of the so-called middle powers and emerging economies in the structure of global governance. Kazakhstan considers BRICS as one of the driving forces of global progress. We are pleased to note the dynamic growth of Kazakhstan's trade with the countries of the association, which in 2023 year accounted for almost half of our foreign trade turnover. We strive to expand mutually beneficial partnerships in key sectors such as trade, investment, critical minerals, food security, education, and tourism. Kazakhstan is ready for close cooperation to strengthen transit and transport cooperation in the BRICS space. Our country attaches particular importance to the further development of the Belt and Road Initiative, as well as the International North-South Transport Corridor. Their coupling with countries with the Caspian International Transport Route connecting Asia and Europe via Kazakhstan via the Caspian Sea can give a powerful multiplier effect to world trade in the long term. Kazakhstan strives to form reliable partnerships within the framework of BRICS Plus to strengthen energy security. We are interested in promoting existing and launching promising projects in the field of oil and gas extraction and processing, as well as critical minerals. It is also necessary to use the huge potential of the BRICS in overcoming the consequences of climate change, such as water scarcity, extreme temperature rise, and desertification. I am convinced that our efforts within the framework of BRICS will significantly increase the interconnectedness between the North and the South, eliminate imbalances in the development of states, significantly strengthen international security, and provide conditions for global progress. I want to assure you once again that Kazakhstan is firmly committed to joint active work in the BRICS format, to strengthen comprehensive cooperation in the interests of sustainable and secure development of states. I am sure that the BRICS summit in Kazan will go down in history as an important milestone on the way to a better, more just world. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, dear Mr. President. You paid attention and gave a good assessment of the BRICS development, and also said that 50% of your country's trade turnover is accounted for by foreign BRICS. This, of course, is a real significant component of our interaction. And, of course, logistics is very important. We understand and attach great importance to this. We hope for Kazakhstan's active participation in our joint work. Please give the floor to the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan. Please. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, for the invitation. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Russian Federation on its successful BRICS presidency. Azerbaijan is an active supporter of the principle of multilateralism in international relations, which was clearly demonstrated by us during the chairmanship of the non-aligned movement in the 2020 years. During the 4 years of its chairmanship, the non-aligned movement has made a big step in its institutional development and has significantly strengthened its place in the system of international relations. The experience of successfully chairing the movement helps us today, as the current chairman of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia, using its geographical location and creating a modern infrastructure. Azerbaijan has become one of the important transport and logistics centers of Eurasia. The east-west and north-south transport corridors pass through our territory. All segments of these transport routes are successfully functioning on the territory of Azerbaijan. At the moment, due to the sharp increase in cargo traffic through our territory, we are investing additional funds in increasing the capacity of these corridors. Next month, Baku will host the largest international climate conference, COP29. The unanimous decision of about 200 countries to hold the COP29 in Azerbaijan is a vivid evidence of respect and support for our policy. We are already contributing to cooperation between the Global South and the Global North on climate, and will strive to achieve mutual understanding on issues related to climate change, as well as issues of global security, the rule of international law, non-interference in each other's affairs, and mutual respect. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, dear Mr. President. Indeed, you have definitely noted that the role of Azerbaijan in the special development of logistics corridors is very, very important, but not only. I think that, bearing in mind the volume, the growing volume of trade turnover with Russia, as well as with other state BRICS, is also of significant importance. What the President of Kazakhstan has just said. I want to wish you all the best. Thank you very much. Please give the floor to the President of the Republic of the Congo, Mr. Denis Sassou Nguesso.
Mr. Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation, Acting Chairman of BRICS+. Ladies and
Дамы
gentlemen,
и господа,
heads of
главы
state and
государств и
government,
правительств,
distinguished
уважаемые
participants of the
участники
summit,
саммита, дамы и
ladies and
господа.
gentlemen, I would like to thank
Хотел бы
His
поблагодарить его
Excellency Mr. Vladimir
превосходительство,
Putin,
господина
President of
Владимира
the Russian
Путина,
Federation,
президента
who has
Российской
gathered us
Федерации,
all on the occasion of the
который
16th
собрал нас
BRICS
всех
Summit.
по случаю 16-го саммита БРИКС.
I would even
Также
like to
хотел бы
welcome the heads of
поприветствовать
state
глав
and
государств и
government
правительств,
present at this high-level meeting,
присутствующих
devoted
на
to
этой
key
встрече
issues
высокого
related
уровня,
to the global economy and the
посвященной
future of
ключевым
peoples.
вопросам, которые связаны с мировой экономикой и будущим народов.
I thank the authorities of the Russian Federation for the warm welcome extended to me and my delegation.
И моей делегации.
I would also like to sincerely congratulate you on the excellent organization of such an important event.
Столь важного мероприятия.
A BRICS meeting was held yesterday. The BRICS Plus meeting is taking place today, and such an expansion in the number of participants represented today testifies to the interest of our countries in a more global South, which would contribute to the creation of a more just, solidary, and prosperous international world order.
Справедливого, солидарного и процветающего международного миропорядка.
The main task for us, the countries of the South, is to combine our efforts to create alternative financial mechanisms designed to regulate the world economy more fairly, based on the legitimate interests of our countries.
Справедливо регулировать мировую экономику, исходя из законных интересов наших стран.
Here, on the banks of the Volga River, decisions are being made that will determine the future of the world.
Решения, которые определят будущее мира.
In response to economic shocks unprecedented before.
Невиданные ранее.
By developing financial institutions more adapted to new realities and increasing trade turnover between our countries, we will be able to build our future on the basis of a more independent and sustainable economy.
Наше будущее на основе более независимой и устойчивой экономики.
Such an approach implies the transformation of international financial institutions so that they correspond to the current economic realities and better take into account the laws and expectations of our peoples.
И лучше учитывали законы и ожидания наших народов.
My country, the Republic of the Congo, fully shares the aspirations of the BRICS Plus countries, especially with regard to world peace, universal progress, and constructive multilateralism.
И конструктивной многосторонности.
Realizing the growing importance of economic and political cooperation between the countries of the South, the Republic of the Congo is particularly interested in the goals set by the BRICS Plus countries, namely, to promote inclusive and sustainable development, as well as to actively contribute to the successful implementation of this extremely important mission.
Устойчивому развитию, а также вносить активный вклад в успешное выполнение этой крайне важной миссии.
In addition to similar economic interests, our countries are united by culture. It strengthens the friendship between our peoples. It is in this spirit that the Republic of the Congo calls for the implementation of common initiatives in the field of education and culture in order to enrich intercultural dialogue,
чтобы обогащать межкультурный диалог.
In addition, my country is located in the heart of the Congo River Basin. Therefore, for more than half a century, we have been protecting the environment as part of the fight against climate change.
В рамках борьбы с изменением климата.
I call for deepening our cooperation in the name of preserving ecosystems and biodiversity.
Сохранение экосистем и биоразнообразия.
In this regard, the Republic of the Congo has submitted to the United Nations General Assembly a resolution on the World Decade of Reforestation to emphasize the important role of forests in climate regulation.
Всемирному десятилетию лесовосстановления, чтобы подчеркнуть важную роль лесов в регуляции климата.
I call on the BRICS Plus countries to take the leading positions in this struggle for the survival of all mankind.
За выживание всего человечества.
I welcome your efforts to protect the environment and reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
И сокращению выбросов парниковых газов.
I also ask the BRICS Plus countries to support the adoption of this United Nations resolution.
Поддержать принятие этой резолюции Организации Объединенных Наций.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, dear Mr. President. You have noted that the country of the Global South shares the aspirations of the BRICS member countries. And this common vision of many complex problems really sets us up to work together, and by combining efforts, we will certainly go forward. Thank you very much for participating in the work. The word of the President of the Plurinational State of Bolivia to Mr. Catacora.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Greetings to all participants. First of all, our brother, President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. Thank you for the invitation. Interim Chairman of the BRICS.
I
Thank you for inviting our country to take part in this meeting. I welcome the leaders of the BRICS countries and the countries participating in this summit, as well as the BRICS Development Bank. I welcome the President of the new Development Bank, Alexander Murasev, as well as all participants. First of all, let me express my gratitude for the warm welcome in Kazan and the hospitality that was provided. It is a great honor for Bolivia to participate in this forum, emphasizing our conviction that BRICS is tangible proof that we can create a new multipolar world that will be more balanced and fair for humanity. Considering the emphasized proximity of Bolivia to the goals and objectives outlined by the BRICS countries, especially with regard to the necessary reforms that are required for the growth and development of new emerging economies of developing countries. Bolivia firmly believes that in regional global integration as the most important mechanism for joint development, the shared vision of global governance brings us even closer to BRICS. Today is the key day of a new stage in the history of the world economy. This is a day of hope, when we see how well the word BRICS is represented in the form of many colors from the flags of all the founding countries, which is well reflected in the slogan of today's meeting. Of course, this is a new dawn, which opens not only shows the expiration of the Bretton Woods Agreement of the 45th year, which marked prosperity for the countries of the West, using the dictatorship of the dollar as the flagship of the economy, and in order to subdue and dominate the economies of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and thus creating a straitjacket, a shirt for the periphery of the center. And it is also a new dawn, because it is an irreversible trend towards multilateralism.
Todo tiene su tiempo bajo el sol, dice un proverbio que expresa la sabiduría de los pueblos, que además representa a culturas milenarias mancilladas por el horror de la guerra, la destrucción y el hambre de su gente, sin respeto alguno por los tesoros en las artes que poseen ni de sus bellos entornos naturales, a veces convertidos en páramos, por solo la ambición del control y la explotación de
into the wasteland because of the use of their natural resources. Despite this, these many thousands of peoples have a cultural heritage that makes us indestructible. The peoples of the world, we have been living for many years under the control and hegemony of unipolarity after the failure of the attempt to build a bipolar world. Today, with unstoppable historical force, multipolarity is emerging and taking over political and economic relations on the planet, because the situation on our Mother Earth has reached the limits that threaten the survival of our peoples and Mother Earth due to the irrational arms race and the concentration of wealth in the hands of a small group, which daily produces more and more strategic weapons to maintain dominance in response to possible threats, while the inequality between rich and poor is getting worse.
Производит все больше и больше стратегических вооружений для поддержания доминирования в ответ на возможные угрозы, в то время как неравенство между богатыми и бедными усугубляется.
The world has realized this reality, and therefore multipolarity arises as a necessity and an expression of the freedom of peoples and nations unjustly punished by genocidal actions, such as the military attack against Palestine, the economic blockade of Cuba, or neocolonialism, cruel neocolonialism, which is carried out against the Saharan people, who are denied self-determination. In this regard, it must be remembered that Bolivia submitted an application to enter into a case related to the application of the Convention for the Prevention and Punishment of Crimes of Genocide in the Gaza Strip. In a court case between South Africa and Israel in the framework of the International Court of Justice, Bolivia reaffirms its firm commitment to the rights of the Palestinian people and to peace in the Middle East. We cannot forget about the actions aimed at destabilizing and attempts to oppress the law of established democracies through coup in countries that are potential victims of Western forces that seek to continue to control the world since 1945 year. We mean Venezuela and its oil, Bolivia and its lithium, as well as Honduras and Colombia, due to their geostrategic position, if we are talking only about Latin America. In addition to these major problems, these macro problems caused by unilateral order. At this crucial moment, the Russian Federation, as the BRICS chairman, promises that its actions will be aimed at promoting the entire spectrum of interaction and cooperation in three main areas: politics and security, economy and finance, cultural and humanitarian ties. These words reflect that we, the people, are not just statistical data. We are not a backyard, but we are people and peoples with our own history and culture. Nevertheless, in the current global situation, we understand that changes should not be dictated. They are part of the whole process. There is a need for such a reform, which was discussed at the meeting of the BRICS foreign ministers with developing countries. On June 10th this year, its 54 points give an understanding of the actions that should be taken, in addition to economic cooperation. And they also show a common vision. We believe that it is necessary to build an international multilateral system that is more flexible, effective, representative, legitimate, democratic, and responsible, which would allow participation, more effective participation of developing countries and least developed countries, in order to give them the right to choose, which they are currently deprived of.
Чтобы дать им право выбора, которого они в данный момент лишены.
Today, economic power is moving from the Atlantic routes to the Pacific region.
Тихоокеанский регион.
But the institutions of global governance remain focused on the global north.
На глобальном севере.
Because these institutions play a crucial role during decision-making and the imposition of sanctions on trade, healthcare, energy supply, and food security. This has to be changed. In this regard, the plurinational state of Bolivia supports the reform of such organizations as the UN-Security Council, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund, which must adapt to reality on a fair and representative basis, and hear all the demands on an equal basis, and take into account the new subjects of power. We support the strengthening of the new development bank, a key framework for financing projects in developing countries, such as Bolivia, and achieving a more equal future. The global challenges and multilateral challenges of capitalism that we face today require the joining of forces and solidarity of the majority of countries that represent the global South today.
Которые сегодня представляют глобальный юг.
We are confident that due to the potential of our countries and with the support of the BRICS countries, we will be able to stimulate the transformation of the economy and global governance to strengthen the formation of joint and mutually beneficial development based on great achievements in technology, science, digital communications, and renewable energy sources. Bolivia is a rich country, rich in natural resources. We're the first. We are the world's first source of lithium. We have large reserves of central gas from traditional minerals and rare earth elements. We are in the process of industrialization, and our participation in BRICS is aimed at mutually beneficial benefits for all participants in this process. I believe that this meeting in Kazan will introduce a new moment in history, when many states are trying to be enslaved.
Многие государства пытаются быть порабощены.
And together, depending on the circumstances, we will realize our national aspirations and the development process, having sovereignty over our territories without any interference, with self-determination, in order to restore the meaning of international relations.
Чтобы восстановить смысл международных отношений.
We respect international law and are exercising justice towards our peoples, who are dominated by Western polarity and rubbing the dollar. Let the decisions be the results of this summit, but they will be translated into concrete actions that will benefit our peoples and will contribute to a promising future for the global development of humanity and our future generations. Thank you very much.
Dear Mr. President, you mentioned the Bretton Woods system, which was once the basis of the international financial system, and let me remind you that the stability of the dollar at that time was ensured, among other things, by linking it to gold. But then there were the Jamaican agreements, which unbuckled the dollar from gold. And the only guarantees of the stability of this world currency have become the stability of one economy, the economy of the United States, its power and dominance in the world. Now the situation in the global economy is changing naturally. I want to say and emphasize this, naturally. And our common task is to give these inevitable changes of transformation a civilized character. Here, we are doing this within the framework of BRICS and calmly in working mode. And we will be happy to do it with all the countries involved in our joint process. Please give the floor to the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia. Please. Thank you very much, dear Vladimir Vladimirovich. Dear heads of delegations, colleagues. First of all, I would like to thank you for the invitation to take part in the Outreach BRICS Plus meeting and express my gratitude to the President of the Russian Federation for the hospitality and organization of today's summit at a high level. The topic of today's BRICS and Global South meeting, building a better world together, and the transport and communication project Crossroads of the World, announced by the government of the Republic of Armenia, fits perfectly into this context. The essence of the project is as follows. Armenia is ready and interested in organizing the passage of vehicles, cargo, passengers, pipelines, cable routes through its territory. This is the shortest route between the Black Sea and the Persian Gulf through the territories of the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Republic of Armenia, and Georgia. This is the north-south direction, as well as the shortest route between the Caspian and Marmara Seas through the territories of the Republic of Azerbaijan, the Republic of Armenia, and Turkey. This is the east-west direction. Naturally, this route can also be used for transport and communication between the Republic of Azerbaijan and the Nakhivan Autonomous Republic, the Republic of Azerbaijan. Taking this approach into account, we have offered Azerbaijan mechanisms for simplified border and customs control procedures, as well as providing additional security measures, taking into account the jurisdiction and full respect for the sovereignty of both countries. I would like to emphasize once again that the Republic of Armenia is able to ensure and fully ensure the safety of the passage of goods, resources, vehicles, and people through its territory. This is our desire, our obligations, and we guarantee it, and will always guarantee it. All statements that Armenia has allegedly agreed in any form, that any third country will ensure the security of communications on its sovereign territory, or that such a provision is provided for in any document, are untrue. Dear heads and members of the delegation, yesterday, the Parliament of the Republic of Armenia ratified the regulations on the joint activities of the Commission on the delimitation of the state border security between the Republic of Armenia and the Republic of Azerbaijan, and the State Commission on the delimitation of the state border between the Republic of Azerbaijan and the Republic of Armenia. After the entry into force of this document in both countries, we will be able to activate the process of delimitation of the state border between Armenia and Azerbaijan on the basis of the basic principles of the Almaty Declaration of 1991st year. I would like to emphasize, by the way, that the decision of the Constitutional Court of Armenia on this legal document finally dispelled all fears and removed all arguments about the alleged existence of alleged territorial claims against neighboring countries in the Constitution of Armenia, stating that such interpretations are unfounded and illegitimate. Dear colleagues, both Armenia and Azerbaijan have repeatedly stated in recent months that the draft treaty on the establishment of peace and interstate relations between the Republic of Armenia and the Republic of Azerbaijan has been agreed upon by at least 80–90%. Formulations have already been fully agreed upon, formulations regarding mutual recognition of each other's territorial integrity, the absence of mutual territorial claims and obligations without making such claims in the future. On the issue of compliance with the principle of non-use of force and threat of force, non-interference in each other's internal affairs, the establishment of diplomatic relations, and the creation of bilateral mechanisms to fulfill the obligations assumed by the parties to the peace treaty. Our assessment is as follows. As of today, the draft treaty formulates, addresses, and resolves all the fundamental issues necessary to establish a solid foundation for peace and normalization of relations between the Republic of Armenia and the Republic of Azerbaijan. And we offer Azerbaijan to sign this agreement already. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, dear Mr. Prime Minister. You have just mentioned logistics projects. This is a very important area of cooperation in the region, and it is even more important that you have a positive attitude to these projects being implemented with Azerbaijan and with other countries in the region, which we have been talking about a lot over the past years. And it is very pleasant to note that the process of demarcation and delimitation of the border has begun, and this is the right way, to a peace treaty. And the fact that you managed to exchange views with the President of Azerbaijan during today's work. Already this is a plus for our event today. Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Please give the floor to the President of the Kyrgyz Republic, Mr. Sadir Nurgizovich Japarov. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, dear heads of state and government, Your Highness and Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to congratulate the Russian Federation on the successful BRICS presidency, wish success and fruitful work, and also thank you for the warm welcome and cordiality in hospitable Kazan. I express my gratitude to the distinguished Vladimir Vladimirovich for the kind invitation to take part in this important event. The current busy agenda of the BRICS is of particular relevance for all mankind. We see this association as a unique platform that promotes the principles of sovereign equality, mutual respect and trust, non-interference in internal affairs, and joint economic development. We share the goals and principles of BRICS activities to present opportunities for economic and social growth, entrepreneurship development, digital technology promotion, development of innovative and environmentally friendly technologies, and solving climate problems. I would like to add that this fully coincides with the Sustainable Development Goals integrated into the National Development Strategy of the Kyrgyz Republic until the 2040th year. Dear friends, after decades of globalization of integration processes, the modern world community is witnessing geopolitical and economic fragmentation. Has the world become safer, more stable, and more prosperous? The question is, of course, rhetorical. Today, it is not international law that dominates, but the right of the strong. Every year new dividing lines appear, spending on armaments increases, which should be directed to creating and overcoming economic inequality. selected countries continue to get richer by curbing international trade and manipulating the financial system. This harms small and economically vulnerable countries. Despite the current difficult geopolitical situation in the world, Kyrgyzstan is taking all measures for sustainable development and has already made significant progress in this, including through large-scale reforms. The country's economy has been developing at a steady pace in recent years, despite unfavorable external factors and difficulties in world markets. Over the past 3 years, the economy has grown by an average of 7%. Our experience has shown that with the right political will and effective governance, even small countries with limited resources can achieve good economic results. Cooperation in combating the effects of climate change, which are visibly manifested in mountain ecosystems, is relevant. For example, the destruction of ecosystems and environmental pollution have a disproportionately strong impact on mountainous countries. At the initiative of Kyrgyzstan, and with the broad support of mountain countries, the 5-year action plan for the development of mountain regions for 2023-2027 years, adopted by the UN General Assembly, is being implemented. Our other initiative is to consolidate the new global dialogue on mountains and climate change as an annual event, within the framework of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change and the formation of the Mountain Partnership Negotiating Group. Taking this opportunity, I would like to appeal to the participants of the event to support the initiatives of the Kyrgyz side. Dear ladies and gentlemen, Kyrgyzstan stands for a fair and non-discriminatory international economic order, universal access to the benefits of the world economy and modern technologies. Foreign trade should fully serve the goals of sustainable development. I am convinced that the development of alternative mechanisms for BRICS cross-border payments, new financial instruments using digital capabilities, and the improvement of payment infrastructure will contribute to the growth of trade efficiency on a regional and global scale. The Kyrgyz Republic is interested in cooperating with the new development bank in financing infrastructure and sustainable development projects both in the BRICS states and other developing countries, and hopes that its role will only increase in order to eradicate poverty, develop infrastructure, and increase resilience to global challenges. We are ready to share with interested participants and partners of the BRICS Plus outreach format our experience in the development of digitalization and infrastructure projects, the transition to a green economy. The BRICS scientific and educational cluster deserves approval. We see great prospects in the development of cultural and creative cooperation between the format countries. We are ready to join the development of this important sphere and cultural exchange. In order to democratize international relations, I would like to share the following considerations. First, in order to establish a lasting peace in the interests of the future generation, it is important to prevent the so-called Blocism, or the division of the state into its own and others. Second, it is necessary to increase the effectiveness of peace building, ensure respect for human rights, strengthen the fight against terrorism, extremism, and drug trafficking. Third, we stand for strengthening the system of multilateralism, which is the beating heart of the UN. It is important to strictly observe the principles and norms of international law, first of all enshrined in the UN Charter, as well as to eliminate the imbalance between the North and the South. Fourth, as a neighboring country, Kyrgyzstan considers it important to provide worldwide support to Afghanistan and the Afghan people by integrating the economy of this country into regional and global economic processes. It is important not to leave Afghanistan in international isolation without external assistance. Fifth, We call on the international community to support the development of countries in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and other small countries by encouraging economic development, promoting food, energy security, and anti-epidemic measures. And sixth, as a mountainous country in the heart of Central Asia, Kyrgyzstan is actively speaking at the global level on the common agenda for the development of mountain regions. Dear participants, in conclusion, I would like to note once again that we highly appreciate the activities of the BRICS International Association and are ready to make our contribution to the collective efforts to address these and other key issues on the agenda today, confirming their desire to establish and strengthen multifaceted cooperation with all participating countries of today's event. The Kyrgyz Republic declares its interest in working closely with the BRICS countries and intentionally strengthening and developing common ties of friendship and partnership for the benefit of our peoples through joint efforts. Thank you for your attention. Dear Mr. President, you mentioned the right of the strong, cultivated in international affairs, but in another way it is also called fist law. When it is used by anyone in the economy, in trade, or in politics, it causes an absolutely adequate response. And instead of international law, this fist is being strengthened. The BRICS goal is precisely to raise the importance of international law. Together with all our partners, we are doing this. As for Afghanistan, as for the mountainous countries in terms of the climate situation, climate change, we understand your concerns. We have talked about this many times, just as we have talked about this with the President of Tajikistan, about whom I want to give the floor now. The countries bordering Afghanistan, of course, feel especially acutely what is happening in this region of the world and in this country. Please give the floor to the President of Tajikistan, Rahman. Mr. Rahman. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, Your Excellency, dear heads of state and delegations, dear general sectors. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the President of the Russian Federation, dear Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, for the initiative to hold our meeting. The current realities of the international situation confirm the relevance of the topic of our meeting together and building a better world. It is obvious that the achievement of this goal is possible only through the strengthening of equal interstate cooperation and the joint desire of our countries to form a more just world order. Today, more than ever, it is necessary to consolidate efforts in order to ensure past peace, security, and stability, and achieve sustainable development. Based on this, at the recent session of the UN General Assembly, I proposed to the world community to adopt a special resolution of the decade for strengthening peace for the sake of future generations. We count on the support of this initiative. Today, we are witnessing contradictory geopolitical processes. Along with this, the threats of international terrorism, extremism, radicalism, cybercrime, illegal trafficking of weapons, drugs, as well as other types of cross-border organized crime are increasing. It is possible to counteract them only if there is a clear and consistent strategy. Tajikistan has always been in favor of expanding cooperation with all international partners in the fight against these threats and challenges. Dear colleagues, Tajikistan is anxiously observing the extremely negative development of the situation in the Middle East, the escalation of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, calling on all parties involved to refrain from further use of force, and take urgent measures to restore stability and security in this region. After all, we emphasize the need to implement the UN Security Council resolution on the creation of an independent and sovereign state on the borders of 1967th year. We are convinced that any controversial issues, conflicts, and disagreements can be resolved by political and diplomatic means. Another layer of problems is related to the consequences of climate change. The natural disasters that have become more frequent in this regard are taking people's lives, forcing us to allocate significant funds to overcome their consequences. Central Asian warming leads to a reduction in the area of glaciers, one of the main sources of water resources in the region. In May next year, our country, in accordance with the resolution of the UN General Assembly, plans to hold a high-level international conference on glacier conservation in Dushanbe. We invite your countries to take part in this event. In the context of climate change, drought as one of the global problems also has a negative impact on all countries, including our Central Asian region. Dear colleagues, instability in the world has a direct impact on the socio-economic development of developing countries. As a mountainous country with no access to the sea, Tajikistan is interested in the stable development of its trade and economic partners, and the expansion of cooperation with them. It is extremely important to take practical steps for a real transition to a green economy, the most important component of which is green energy. We all remember very well the COVID-19 pandemic that recently swept the whole world. The most important lesson of this planetary abetstvo, in my opinion, is that no country in the world, regardless of its development, is immune from the spread of such dangerous diseases. In this regard, a broad partnership in the qualitative improvement of healthcare, ensuring universal access to new methods of prevention and treatment of diseases is seen as the only way the world should follow. Dear colleagues, we believe that only a broad, interested interaction of the entire world community can create favorable living conditions for our future generations in our common home on planet Earth. The key to achieving this noble goal is the further development of the dialogue of civilization. We should strive for greater mutual understanding between peoples, the development and mutual enrichment of our unique national cultures, and the building of truly friendly relations. In conclusion, I would like to note that in the countries of the Global South, full measures are able to mobilize efforts to build a better world. Thank you again, Vladimir Vladimirovich, for inviting and organizing such a very global scale of events. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, dear Mr. President. You have paid attention once again to the glaciers. Indeed, for countries such as Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and many other states, this is a very important problem. It is growing because glaciers are melting, and this is a source of water supply and the quality of healthcare. In this regard, I would like to say this. The quality of healthcare, the fight against epidemics is the most important component of humanitarian development. And in this area, any restrictions and sanctions dictated by political considerations are definitely, absolutely unacceptable, and this, unfortunately, happens. The BRICS task is to establish relations in these areas in such a way that the best achievements in the field of medicine, medical technology, and the fight against the epidemic are the property of all participating countries. Thank you very much. I give the floor to the Prime Minister of Vietnam. Please, please. Dear President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, dear leaders, dear delegates, I sincerely thank President Putin for inviting Vietnam to take part in the summit of leaders of the expanded BRICS format. Let me thank you for the invitation to Kazan. Let me congratulate the Russian Federation and you, Mr. President, on the outstanding leadership of the BRICS as chairman in the 2022 year. Over the past 2 decades, BRICS has confirmed its important role by becoming a mechanism for close cooperation, joint sustainable development, and effective solutions to common challenges to humanity. The BRICS inspired and gave impetus to the countries of the South, including Vietnam, on their development path. Dear ladies and gentlemen, the world is entering an era of universal interconnectedness, deep integration, intelligent technologies, and innovations. However, humanity is facing unprecedented challenges. Climate change, depletion of natural resources, aging of the population, geopolitical instability, growing inequality and division. These global problems require joint efforts of all states, a global, comprehensive approach that emphasizes the importance of multilateralism and international solidarity. In this new era, the BRICS should embody a close relationship between countries, especially among developing ones. We have to develop. And under these conditions, the BRICS should take a leading role in mobilizing, distributing, and effectively using all resources for climate change adaptation, further development of the green economy, digital economy, closed-loop economy, and ensuring food, energy, and information security. And BRICS should be ahead of the development of all these areas. And develop a green economy, digital economy, information security. Vietnam welcomes and thanks the new Development Bank for expanding the range of beneficiaries and financial support for strategic projects in the BRICS countries and other developing countries. And we must develop BRICS ties with developing countries. And the development of these ties. It will promote connection between people. This is the unification of global supply chains based on modern scientific and technological achievements, innovations, to create new incentives for economic growth, expand new development spaces for all countries, while simultaneously diversifying production, product range, and markets. This is followed by a connection between people. This cultural cooperation, educational training, tourism, and exchange between the peoples of BRICS and other countries should be strengthened to create a cultural space of unity and diversity, where differences are respected, where common values are valued, and where the beauty of friendship and cooperation develops and strengthens. And, as the great Russian writer Fyodor Dostoevsky emphasized, beauty will save the world. Fifth, the association is about reforming global governance mechanisms in the direction of connectivity, exchange, digitalization, balance, equality, efficiency, inclusiveness, and comprehensive sustainable development. We need to participate more actively and effectively in shaping global rules and standards, especially in such new areas as artificial intelligence management, cloud computing, and the Internet of Things. BRICS must resolutely fight the trend of protectionism and politicization of economic, trade, scientific and technological relations and innovations. Dear leaders, dear colleagues, interconnection and integration for the sake of creating a better world is a permanent policy of Vietnam, based on three key principles. A person should be at the center, be the subject, the goal, the driving force, and the most important resource of development. We should not sacrifice social justice, progress, and environmental protection for the sake of simple economic growth. Secondly, we must adhere to an independent foreign policy, multilateralism, and diversification. Vietnam strives to be a good friend, a reliable partner, and a responsible member of the international community, for the sake of peace, cooperation, and development in the region and the world. We adhere to the defense policy. We follow the policy of the four no's. Do not enter into military alliances. Do not cooperate with any country against another. Do not provide military bases, and do not use the territory of Vietnam for attacks on other countries. We do not use force or threaten to use it using international relations. The great Russian writer Maxim Gorky once said, every nation is an integral part of the great human organism, and only together we can achieve genuine progress. In this spirit, I am confident that the BRICS will be even more just, and that by revealing internal forces, outwardly build a world of complete stability, cooperation, and development. President Ho Chi Minh City, a hero of national liberation, an outstanding cultural figure of Vietnam, once said, solidarity. Solidarity, great solidarity. Success, great success. Vietnam is ready to cooperate with BRICS and the international community to realize the idea of creating a better world. I ask you again, President Putin, for a very warm welcome in Kazan. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you very much, dear Mr. Prime Minister. You have touched upon many important and interesting topics, but I would like to draw attention to one of them. You spoke about the common values of the BRICS countries. And so it is. We respect the traditions of the participating countries, the religions that are cultivated in these countries, the culture of our peoples. And this is what underlies our success. Thank you for your performance. And I am pleased to give the floor to the President of Turkmenistan, Sadir Yubagevich Berdimuhamedow. Please, you. Dear heads of state, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank the President of the Russian Federation, dear Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, for his hospitality and warm welcome. Turkmenistan is participating in the BRICS Plus Outreach Summit for the first time. Thank you for the invitation to such a representative event. We see this as a respectful attitude towards Turkmenistan. As is known, Turkmenistan takes an active part in the efforts of the international community, aimed at achieving and affirming the principles of cooperation, mutual respect, and consideration of interests in the world. Our country uses its neutral status to promote the peacekeeping agenda, ensure global and regional security, and establish a culture of equal dialogue, trust, and predictability in interstate relations. An important component of Turkmenistan's foreign policy course is the application of the model of neutrality, tools of preventive diplomacy to prevent conflict situations and eliminate the causes that give rise to them. We are convinced that in the current conditions, the basic principles of neutrality are objectively in demand and, with the support of the international community, can bring real benefits in ensuring global security. In this context, it is necessary to emphasize the special importance and high efficiency of the activities of the UN-Regional Center for Preventive Diplomacy for Central Asia, whose headquarters are located in the city of Ashgabat. We are also convinced that in the current conditions, the basic principles of neutrality are objectively in demand and, with the support of the international community, can bring real benefits to ensure regional and global security. As a responsible state, Turkmenistan proposes a number of measures aimed at normalizing and improving the international situation and moving to constructive parameters of interaction. In this regard, our country has made a number of serious proposals at the UN, such as, in particular, the development of a global security strategy, the initiative to give neutral countries the status of priority partners of the UN and peacekeeping efforts, as well as a number of proposals in the context of creating and strengthening regional security and stability. A landmark event in this context was the unanimous support of the UN General Assembly and Turkmenistan's initiative to declare the next 25th year the International Year of Peace and Trust. We hope that all states will take an active part in the implementation of the provisions of the relevant resolution of the General Assembly. Turkmenistan's international strategy is based on the country's involvement in modern geoeconomic trends, proactive participation in solving urgent problems of our time, the implementation of sustainable development goals, overcoming crisis situations in the environmental, food sector, the creation of more equal, fair and reliable ways for countries and peoples to access energy sources, clean water and air. To do this, our state also acts from an active and responsible position. I would like to draw your attention to Turkmenistan's initiatives in the field of economy, energy, and sustainable transport. In particular, we are talking about the development of a global framework program for the transition to a circular economy. Other initiatives include the creation of a global atlas of sustainable transport connectivity and the Alliance for Global Energy Security and Sustainable Development. In general, speaking about the current global geoeconomic trends, Turkmenistan highlights one of their defining problems: the increasing importance of developing countries. They are largely designed to give new energy, well established, but already requiring constructive revision. The old scheme of the world order to bring new meanings and purposes to them. The key component here should be the alignment of the levels of scientific and technological development of states, digitalization and innovation standards, the absolute priority of environmental criteria of the economy, trade, transport, industry, extraction and processing of raw materials, in a number of other areas. We intend to consistently achieve these goals. A few words about the climate agenda. It is obvious that it will become a key one and will determine the entire trajectory of the path of human development. In the current century, Turkmenistan advocates a systematic consideration of climate issues as one of the basic components of a global approach to ensuring architecture, security, and development, the creation of multilateral mechanisms for monitoring and responding to climate and environmental man-made disasters. In matters of environmental cooperation with Turkmenistan, priority is given to the protection and preservation of the natural landscape in Central Asia, marine resources and biodiversity in the Caspian Sea, rational use of water and water energy resources of these regions, on the basis of taking into account the interests of partners and generally recognized norms of international law. We attach great importance to international cooperation in the humanitarian sphere, including solving the problems of refugees and stateless persons. In recent years, Turkmenistan has established good cooperation in these matters with the UN, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and a number of specialized institutions, which has led to significant positive results at the national level. We are ready to share our accumulated experience and practical developments with other countries. Our country also considers it important to give proper impulses to cooperation in the cultural, scientific, educational spheres, to expand knowledge about each other, the interpenetration of cultures, traditions, original art, uniting peoples on healthy creative foundations, are ready to establish such interaction with partners, participate in the development of appropriate plans for joint activities. Dear participants, I would like to thank the organizers once again for the invitation to participate in this meeting, the opportunity to speak and share doubts and suggestions. In conclusion, let me express my gratitude to the organizers of the forum for the created conditions for successful and productive work. Thank you for your attention. Dear Mr. President, you have also drawn attention to many interesting important issues, but I would like to point out this. You spoke about the need to eliminate the causes of the crisis in order to eliminate them. I fully support this position. This is an absolutely fundamental issue. This is the most important thing in overcoming any crisis, including those acute situations in the world that have developed today, and which we touched upon during the discussion today. You also mentioned your work with the United Nations. We have also often mentioned the activities of this organization today, and there are, of course, many questions. The world is changing, and all the structures that were created decades ago must change in accordance with the changing world. But I would like to note that with all these issues, there is still no such other universal international organization in the world. I am pleased to give the floor to the Secretary General of the United Nations Organization for Mr. Guterres.
Mr. President, distinguished leaders,
dear leaders, representatives of countries, dear colleagues, protocol staff, I am very grateful for the opportunity to participate in the 16th BRICS Council. All countries represent almost 50% of the world's population. I note your commitment, support for multilateralism, and the solution of international problems. And this is reflected in today's meeting. No other group, no country can work on its own. We need a community of countries that will act as one big family in order to cope with the big global challenges, such as the growing number of conflicts, destruction, and for climate change, pollution, loss of biodiversity. Growing inequality and continuing poverty, hunger, crises threaten our plans for the future for many vulnerable countries. That 1/5 part of the CGs is being implemented. The growing digital divide, the lack of solutions in the field of artificial intelligence and other breakthrough technologies, lack of representation from developing countries in the global decision-making process, from the Security Council to the British Woods system and beyond. The situation has to change. The Summit of the Future was held in September. We have presented a roadmap for strengthening multilateralism, promoting peace, sustainable development, and human rights. I see 4 directions for action. First of all, financing. Today's financing system does not provide many vulnerable countries with the necessary level of social security, which they do not need. The Pact for the Future aims to accelerate the reform of the international financing architecture, which is outdated, inefficient, and unfair.
и несправедливо.
It also includes a commitment to continue stimulating the Sustainable Development Goal, change business models, and seriously increase the possibilities of support from multilateral development banks and their concessional financing to developing countries that are in vulnerable conditions, introduce more ESTER, restructure loans for countries that are drowning in debt, and mobilize more domestic resources as private and public in order to provide the necessary financing in developing countries.
Мобилизировать больше внутренних ресурсов, как частных, так и государственных, для того, чтобы обеспечить необходимое финансирование в развивающихся странах.
Next year, there will be a conference on financing for development, a summit on social development.
Саммит по социальному развитию.
These are two important steps in order to implement the appropriate measures. We also note the important South-South cooperation. This does not replace the commitments and commitments of developed countries, but it provides a greater contribution to support developing countries in the upcoming conditions for solutions and achievement of the CGs. The second is the climate. Each country has expressed a commitment to reduce the temperature rise to the level of 1.5 degrees. This requires serious actions to reduce emissions, and the Group of 20 should lead this work. In just a few weeks, the conference of the parties will be held, and then a new report will begin, in order to present new contribution plans, and the corresponding target indication is up to 25%.
Целевое показание составляет до 25%.
Indeed, the Conference of the Parties will present new opportunities for a financing plan. Developed countries must meet their commitments, double the allocation of funds for climate, and it is also necessary to finance the fund of losses and damage. This did not happen at the time it was created. The third direction is technology. Every country should be able to access the benefits of technology. The Global Digital Compact is designed to strengthen international cooperation and potential. It provides for 3 truly fair agreements on artificial intelligence, so that each country can have a place at the table about artificial intelligence. Meetings of experts on artificial intelligence are also held, and a political dialogue is held at the level of state leaders within the UN with the participation of all countries. There are also opportunities for innovative financing to strengthen the capacity in the field of artificial intelligence in developing countries. Fourth, peace. It is necessary to strengthen the mechanism of peace, including reforming the UN Security Council, so that it represents the modern world. The Pact for the Future provides 4 important steps regarding disarmament, including the first multilateral agreement on nuclear disarmament in more than a decade, and also measures to exclude the placement of weapons in outer space and the use of deadly autonomous weapons. First of all, we need peace in Gaza. An immediate ceasefire is needed, the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages, and the effective provision of humanitarian assistance without any obstacles, and it is necessary to ensure mandatory progress. In order to end the occupation, implement two-state decisions and reaffirm, as was confirmed in the Security Council resolution. Peace and infusion with an immediate cessation of hostilities are needed, and with the full implementation of the UN Security Council Resolution 1701. We need peace in Ukraine. The world is fair in accordance with the UN Charter, international law, and resolutions of the General Assembly. We need peace in Sudan, where all sides should stop shooting and strive for sustainable peace. I presented the same messages at the high-level week in September in New York. Unfortunately, more precisely, they are now leaving to maintain their relevance. It is necessary to support everywhere the values noted in the UN Charter, the rule of law, the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and political independence of all states. Your Excellency, dear ladies and gentlemen, the Summer of the Future presented a direction for strengthening multilateralism for the purpose of global development and security. Now we need to back up words with deeds. And we believe in BRICS, that it will be able to play a very important role in order to achieve its goals. Thank you. Dear Mr. Secretary General, he said that we should all live as one big family. Dear Mr. Secretary General, this is how we live. Unfortunately, quarrels, scandals, and division of property often occur in families. It sometimes comes to a fight. The goal of BRICS is to create the necessary mechanisms of interaction and create a favorable atmosphere in a common home. We are doing this and will continue to do it, including in close coordination with the United Nations. Thank you very much. Dear colleagues and friends, we are taking a short break now, and we will immediately continue working in the format of a working breakfast. Thank you.